try that hard. I ain't gonna show that card. People start to wonder if you live here now. And the boys in the corner are trying.
All right, and we are back from that wonderful song from the Drop Teens, and we're going to do a little MLB and minor league talk. Just me and you, Rhys. This is my one appearance for the episode. We're recording this a little early. So we're just going to talk some ball. How are you doing today, though?
I'm doing great. I know you've got to go out and go scout, which kudos to you. And yeah, I hope everything goes well.
Thanks, man. I want to get right into something that just I know is going to make your blood boil here. Let's talk some Jarren Duran fake trades. So first of all, do you think Duran is the tradable piece on this Boston team, or would you have something else to kind of make room for Roman Anthony?
He's the easiest to move because he's got the least amount of control. We're going to talk about Rafael later, a little bit of spoiler. You don't want to move Abreu, and I think he is the easiest piece to move.
Yeah, and he definitely retains some value. I mean, top 5 MVP vote getter last year. I think it was 6.7 WAR, something like that. He obviously is a valuable player. So when we're looking at some of these mock trades, what kind of pieces do you think are warranted in a return for a guy like Jarren Duran?
Well, not some of the ones that I've seen floating around there. I mean, we are talking about some of the worst trade offers I've seen in a while, and there's a whole thread of them. I'm thinking you probably, for someone who he's a free agent in 29, so he's still got some team control. Are eligible in 2027. So because he has he signed one of those weirder smaller contract extensions to raise up his floor. But he club option 2026. I assume they're going to extend that. Of the ones that I saw, I just think that we're talking about a guy. I don't think you're getting a top 50 prospect back by any means as the headliner, but I think you get a top 75 prospect, a top 150 prospect, and maybe a scratch off lottery ticket guy in the complex. That's what I think you could get for him. Maybe I'm underrating Jarren Duran a little bit, but I just think that I don't think you're getting the sort of big piece that I think this thread thought that he was. Thought that the Red Sox would.
I think it also really depends on actually what teams can actually make a deal like this happen. So when you're saying that, the first team that comes to mind for me is the Padres. Would you trade Ethan Salas in a deal for Jarren Duran?
I would, but then what do the Red Sox want? I mean, if I'm the Red Sox, if I'm the Padres, I don't think the Red Sox want Ethan Salas. I like him more than most because I value a defensive catcher more than I think a lot of the people on the online, Twitter sphere will acknowledge. And I think even if the bat's, a below league average bat, he's going to provide so much value with the glove and the arm and everything else behind the dish. And I think there is going to be power that comes with Salas. But I think the thing is the Red Sox wouldn't want him to be the headliner. If he's the second piece, that's awesome. But there is no shot that the Padres, I would imagine not, unless Preller's job is on the hot seat, that they trade Leo DeVries, who might be a top 5 prospect in all of baseball, for Jarren Duran.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. What are some other teams here that you might be interested? So we've referenced a couple mock trades we've seen online. One of the more interesting team fits we saw were the Guardians, who have some prospects that might fit the mold, and also some MLB players they could trade. I think the Mariners are in a position where, maybe you could get a top 50-ish guy from the Mariners because they have a lot of guys in that 50 to 100 range. Are there any other teams or any fits that you really like for Duran?
If I'm them, the Mariners make a lot of sense. They have the depth. They have the young prospects. They have a bunch of stuff that can really help. I don't think you're getting Colt Emerson. You're definitely not getting Carmelo, I would imagine. But then Ryan Sloan comes into the conversation. Jurangelo Cinche comes into the conversation. Lazaro Montes is a second or third piece is really nice. If you really want to gamble on the upside of Feldon Celestine, I think he's a nice second piece as well. I guess that kind of tells you that I kind of view Ryan Sloan as a little bit better than those guys, and especially Jurangelo Cinche when we start re-ranking the top 20s. But that's the sort of team that I think makes a lot of sense because, I mean, as you know, Nate, I've been making fun of their lineup for a little bit now, and probably not something that you've been enjoying. You've probably been one of those people that screenshots and saves my tweets. But Leo DeVries as your right fielder, I think you can upgrade that pretty easily. I mean, then you have a much better lineup. You strengthen that middle of the lineup, and then when Julio Rodriguez starts getting going, which I think we're starting to see little bits of signs of life from him, and with Cal Raleigh, then I think we have a chance to really see this team take a step forward, because if I remember correctly, they are top. Nope, they are not top, but they are very close to the top of the American League West, and they kind of need to go for it. This is a team that, the fans haven't seen a lot. There's a lot of movable pieces. They're only a half a game back. I don't know what you think as the Mariners fan, but I think that the Mariners make a lot of sense for Jarren Duran if the Red Sox want to make a move.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute floor raiser, which is what the Mariners need because we have so many kind of up and down players. Randy Rosarena has been really nice in left field this year, pretty consistent actually. But then like your third outfielder, we're talking like Luke Raley. It's been weird lately. It's been Leody Taveras. Luke Raley's obviously still injured. Duran is obviously the floor raiser there, and I would be comfortable giving up anyone at Ryan Sloan or below on kind of our Mariners rankings or whatnot. And we have the prospects to do it. If you have this many like pretty good, close to top 100 guys, losing two of them isn't a big deal. And then losing, that lottery ticket down the board, it doesn't mean as much. I mean, we have the prospect depth where I would love to see them go for a Duran type guy or make a big splash, but I don't know if it'll end up being Duran or not. I don't necessarily know what the Red Sox want in a package back. I think it's probably a top pitching prospect is probably what maybe a top right-handed pitching prospect. So that's where Ryan Sloan actually does make a lot of sense here. So I like that fit. I think Duran is an obvious candidate to get moved, but it's a tough sell for Red Sox fans too. Like you're trying to compete, but you are getting worse in my opinion this year if you move Duran to call up Roman Anthony. So now it's kind of like we're in this discussion of, are the Red Sox trying to make the playoffs this year? Are they not? I don't know exactly what their record is right now. They're sitting at 30-34, 4 games out of the wild card. Like,
and they're losing some of these games in the dumbest possible ways.
Is like trading Duran like kind of punting on the season, don't you think?
I think it's punting on the season for a chance at the future. I almost wonder if the Red Sox have to prioritize, what do you call it? Close to the majors prospects. So I wonder if Harry Ford, I mean, obviously you don't trade for need, when we're dealing with prospects, right? But Harry Ford can go and be a catcher. He's perfectly good back there. I think honestly that they should be using him more. I think I've been saying this a lot for a while now. They should be using him more as a defensive, versatile chess piece, allow him to be the queen on the chessboard, so to say, play shortstop because he has athleticism, play third base. But I think that the Red Sox kind of need that catcher of the future, although they do have their catcher of the present right now. And I know, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but this is a team that really, I think taking a step back this year to see what Roman Anthony is, and then maybe being aggressive in the pitching market in the offseason sort of makes things easier. And then it frees up some money for them, because they do try to act like a small market team. The Red Sox do. So maybe we could see, maybe getting Duran off the books and then not having to worry about an extension with him by replacing him with Roman Anthony, who in theory is going to be an upgrade, but you never really know. And then, attacking the pitching market, getting Michael King or Dylan Cease and all that. Maybe that makes them worse in the right now, but better in the long term.
Yeah, I think I agree with your thoughts 100%. Let's just kind of skip ahead to Carlos Narvaez here. Did you expect this? Did anyone expect this? He looks like a big league catcher now, and he looks like maybe the future catcher for the Boston Red Sox, just based on what we're seeing. He's been pretty good on both sides of the ball.
He is like younger than you would think. He has been around, he's only 26. He's never really gotten a fair chance with the Yankees. I mean, they kind of just threw him into this trade with the Red Sox, and they got Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, who's a very good prospect, don't get me wrong. But Carlos Narvaez has been absolutely awesome for the Red Sox. Not good for the Yankees. We're talking about a guy who's hitting above average, 126 WRC plus from your catcher position is fantastic. Plus, he's always been a very good defensive catcher. Like that's his big calling card. We're talking about a guy who might end out the season with 2 to 3 wins based on Fangraphs WAR. And I think that we're talking about just a really exciting catching piece for the Red Sox to kind of develop. Sorry, he's already at 2 WAR right now.
Yeah.
I undersold him. They project him for another 1.1 WAR for the rest of the season. So he's a 3 WAR catcher that they got for nothing. This is a great get by the Red Sox.
And it felt like there's a lot of uncertainty with the Red Sox catching position after giving up Teal, and you would do it 10 times out of 10 to get Garrett Crochet, but they traded their future catcher and then dumb luck / really found their guy. I'm sure that they had high hopes for Narvaez, but I don't think anyone saw this coming. I mean, I was in the Connor Wong camp where I was like, yeah, Connor Wong's going to be good enough back there, and Narvaez is really, taking all the shine back there. So I don't think catcher's a need moving forward for the Red Sox. But if you got a guy like Harry Ford, who you could put back there once or twice a week and play him at a bunch of different spots,
maybe he can play first base.
Honestly, he could, right? Like, he's an athletic guy. I saw him the other day, and I really liked his instincts behind the plate. I think he's a true catcher. I think he's perfectly average. I want the Mariners to call him up in favor of Mitch Garver or trade him. Whatever they want to do. Okay, so last Red Sox here, I promise. There's been some Twitter ideas about Ceddanne Rafaela and Pete Crow Armstrong have very comparable baseball savant pages. The one big difference is in the pulled fly ball rate, I believe, is PCA is, 12% higher than Rafaela, something like that, a pretty significant margin, and therefore PCA, edges him in home runs by over double, I believe. Is there some kind of comparison in there? Do you think Rafaela could ever have a PCA kind of breakout like we're seeing now? And then adding on to that, is this PCA breakout really that legit if he's being comped to Ceddanne Rafaela?
This is such a good question. So my thing is that I don't think Rafaela is going to get to that sort of, unless he drastically changes, which is very well could happen. Rafaela has been a really valuable piece for the Red Sox, honestly. He's been kind of holding it down in center field. Like, he is an absolute animal out there. It feels like every week he's making the catch of the season. Like, we're talking about a guy with great instincts. The problem is that he strikes out less than you would think for someone who has such a bad hit tool, but he loves to swing. Like, he's going up there, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Rafael is going to swing, and he's going to swing and make bad contact. That tends to be his problem. So I don't know if he'll ever be selective enough to even get to the point where he can start, adding more to his fly ball, pull and lift sort of profile, because he's just such a suboptimal contact guy that I think it really hurts everything, because everything else under the hood's fantastic. We're talking about a 45% hard hit percentage, expected batting average of 271, expected slug of 487. So you could argue that Ceddanne Rafaela is getting slightly less. He's getting slightly unlucky, but we're talking about a guy who just makes such poor swing decisions. He swings at everything that he's always going to underperform his expected stats. But that's that to say that I think that he can be a valuable piece. I don't think he's going to be what Pete Crow Armstrong is, who's kind of cementing it, throwing himself into the MVP race. I mean, there's a reason that people are calling him MVP. And I just think, I think that Pete Crow Armstrong is going to take a step back because his plate approach is also terrible. He doesn't walk. There's no floor in the profile. But while he's going, it's a fun player and it's a fun profile in general.
100%. And I know we talked about Pete on an episode, a week ago or whatnot. But like, looking at these savant pages, Rafaela has more red in the hitting categories than Pete does, which is like, kind of, how does a guy like Pete hit so well with, a first percentile chase rate? Like, how is he doing it? Is it great barrel control? I mean, obviously he's just trying to lift and pull everything he sees, but how do you get from the Ceddanne Rafaela, 60 WRC plus to the Pete Crow Armstrong, MVP type player when their profiles look eerily similar? Like, what do you think the real difference between those two guys is what I suppose I'm asking.
So I think the big thing is that when you have the lift and pull approach that Pete Crow Armstrong has, this isn't an original idea that I've heard it discussed a few times. I think with Jeff Pons, some of the baseball prospectus guys also mentioned, when you lift and pull, your mishits tend to be singles. So there's that as well, right? Like, if you lift and pull and hit the ball hard, good things tend to happen, right? The old baseball adage, hit the ball hard and it'll find a hole. And that sort of is what happens here, where Rafaela, again, doesn't have that sort of same approach. I mean, we're talking about, the one big thing is that, they both are like the worst chase hitters in all of Major League Baseball, right? Like, bottom 1 percentile, 44% for both of them. I just think that with Pete Crow Armstrong's approach of I'm just going to go up there, I'm going to lift and pull everything, get to the most of my power, where Rafaela is just kind of like, I'm just going to go up there and swing and see whatever the hell happens. I think that's just the difference in the approaches. If Rafaela could ever get to that sort of lift and pull approach, oh my gosh, we could be talking about an even better version because he's a better defender in center field. He is a better base runner. He's a little bit more versatile, so he can play shortstop if needed. Not great, but he can play it. And he's got a, like, I don't want to say an 80 feels conservative for his arms, like 90. He's got one of the best arms you'll ever see in all of baseball. Not that Pete Crow Armstrong doesn't have a great arm, but it's just the difference in approach, I guess, offensively.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Rafaela's pulling 12% of the balls in the air right now, compared to, straight away and Oppo combined almost 40%. So he is almost refusing to pull the ball at all. Only 30% of his batted balls are being pulled right now. And it's easier said than done to make an adjustment from being an all fields hitter to a lift and pull guy. But this is where it's like, man, buy low on Rafaela, because if he ever does figure it out, he has the PCA breakout in him. Because I wouldn't define PCA as, a huge power threat. Granted, he is hitting balls really hard right now, and he's clearly developed some power in the last year or two. But I could see Rafaela having a muted version of a PCA breakout. But moving right along to kind of our next topic here, I just want to talk about the Brewers system. I think the Brewers are my favorite farm system in the league. I don't know if you agree on that or not. I think the depth is what separates them from almost anyone else. I think the Mariners are in contention with depth. White Sox have a fun, depthy system. Let's just talk Brewers players. I think I know who your favorite is, but what are your overall thoughts on this Brewers system right now?
Their system is absolutely loaded. I mean, we're talking about Jesus Mate being, I think, the second best prospect in all of baseball. Luis Pena is a top 50 prospect in my mind. I know some people are pushing him in the top 10. I'm not there yet. I don't think I'm going to get there. We're talking about, even that affiliate that they're at, you have Eric Batanti, who's massive. He smashes batted balls. We have, Jacob Mizorowski in the upper minors. It sort of has everything that you sort of want. They have Logan Henderson, who's still prospect eligible, and he's come up and he's been one of the better, call-ups this entire season. He's been fantastic. We also have just a bunch of interesting, Craig Yoho bounces up and down. They've got everything that you sort of want. They have a catcher coming in, Jefferson Cuero, who can kind of spell Contreras a little bit. The depth in which they can play around with, that's not even mentioning Cooper Pratt, who I think continually gets underrated because he's a Brewers prospect. I think he's going to start lifting and pulling a little bit more here soon. So we're talking about just a system that has everything that you want. I don't think the Brewers are doing that great. The last I checked, let me pull up the NL Central standings, but we're talking about, one of the better teams at drafting and developing, and this is sort of the fruits of their labor. They were able to trade Yoefry Rodriguez and a Comp A pick, I believe, or it was a Comp B pick. I forget off the top of my head. I wrote the article, so I should know, for Quinn Priester to help them out. They're 5 games above 500 right now, so this is a team that, in theory, could be at any player that they want with the sort of prospect capital that they've acquired over the past couple years.
Yeah, 100%. And I almost want to highlight Jefferson Cuero here, because he hasn't played baseball in about a year. I know he's coming back right now. He has been a mainstay at the top of their prospect list for a couple of years now, it feels like. And he's a really good catcher. And you almost forget that he's there because we haven't been seeing, the Twitter updates like all these other guys who are going off in the system. And that's just like an added bonus on top. Like, if that can be your backup catcher or a trade chip, like, that is the kind of guy who can net you a win now player, depending on the Brewers' needs. And I do think the Brewers have a lot of needs, and they kind of have to figure out where they're going to be. They have a young core that they can build around, but we've kind of got to figure out if they're going to win now or not. They're half game out of the wild card, I believe. So they're definitely in one of the best situations in the MLB right now. I have to agree with you on the Jesus Mate thing. He's easily top 5 for me. Luis Pena, I'm not quite there yet, 30, 40 maybe. Logan Henderson, man, is dispelling the changeup guys can't be successful in MLB. He continues to outperform everything, and at some point you have to look at it as when a guy consistently outperforms what you expect of him. He probably is just a good pitcher at some point. Some guys are just born to outperform metrics, and I believe that, like, a changeup guy who really knows who he is one of those guys who can do that. And if he ever learns kind of how to spin a ball, you get something really exciting there. I love this system. Obviously, Craig Yoho, they're one of the best at developing, relief pitching in the MLB. They have a lot of kind of young, exciting pitchers in their farm right now. I really like this Coleman Crow guy. I've been on him for a little bit now. I know I wrote his report in the offseason. Is killing it right now in the minors. They have just fun options up and down the board.
They do. Like Luis Lara is one of my favorites. I mean, Michael Bove is good. Luke Adams is a perfectly fine if Batonti doesn't figure it out. And then they have guys like coming up. Their DSL crop is very strong. Their complex crop is really strong as well. So they've just got it figured out at every single level. There's an interesting prospect. So if you have MILB TV, if you're watching Path of the Show, I feel like we mention a Brewers prospect at least once an episode because they just continue to pump out these guys. And like you said with Logan Henderson, he's figuring out how to be a 2-pitch guy, fastball, changeup, right-hander, because I think honestly that slot and how low he gets on the ground, I think allows everything to play up. It looks like an uncomfortable at bat, and I think he is starting to figure out the cutter.
And being a right-on-right changeup guy, I think that there's something to it. I know generally a changeup doesn't play as well as the same hand. However, if you have an elite changeup, it doesn't. We see that with Devin Williams, right? You can throw it to either side, and it doesn't matter if you have an elite changeup, especially if you have the kind of look he does on the mound. Filippo Dituri is one of my kind of sleeper guys. I like him a lot. He's quietly 130 WRC plus on that single A team who just has everyone else on it. Moving on to another system here, though, the Cardinals. We had a little bit of talk about this before we started recording. Where are you at with the Cardinals right now?
I think that they are firmly they're competing for their, we talked about, they're 4 games back of the Cubs, which is, one series and all of a sudden you're back in it. They're 6-4 in their last 10. The Cubs are 7-3 and the Cubs are a good team. But the Cardinals are very firmly in the wild card slot. And that's one of the things that's happened with these extended wild cards, right? Is that, more teams are in it. And I think that's what's better for us as fans. I want to see more playoffs, not less. So, we talked about it pre-show. I think this lineup's really, really good. We're talking about Lars Nootbaar being the guy who's on base all the time. Mason Wynn is continuing his offensive, prowess and everything. Brendan Donovan's not your natural 3-hole hitter, but he is just, spraying balls all around. He's just being a consistent middle of the order bat. Wilson Contreras has also been really good. Ivan Herrera, they have technically, depending on how you want to view it, 3 catchers in their lineup right now. Wilson Contreras can technically go back there. I think he still owns a catching glove. Ivan Herrera is their DH. Pedro Pajes has been doing really well. He's their catcher. Alec Burleson as a lefty power bat hitting at the bottom of the lineup. If you get anything from him, that's fantastic. Nolan Arenado's had a nice little bounce back. And if Victor Scott ever sort of jumps into that Cedon Rafaela, Beaker Armstrong, which is he's very similar-ish profile, less power but more speed. If he shows anything, if he takes that next step forward that we think he's going to this season, this is a lineup that's pretty deep 1 through 9. Honestly, it's one of the deeper lineups. It doesn't get discussed that way because there's not an Ohtani, there's not a Judge, there's not a Soto, but they just continue. It's like a machine, right? It's how the Cardinals have always built their organization. They just pass the baton on to the next guy in a relay. And they have Nolan Gorman, who's a good power bat off the bench, and I think the rotation's a little bit better than it's given credit for. Sonny Gray is a really good number. Is a good number 1. I don't think he's an ace because I think there's 4 or 5 aces in baseball, but he's the staff ace. Fetty's kind of been up and down. Mikolas is going to be bounced to the bullpen or the nether region or the nether realm after in the postseason. Palante's been good. He can bounce between being a starter. I think they have a chance to make a trade. I feel like I'm talking a lot here, but this bullpen's also really good.
It's it's such a deeper crop than you think, and they have some minor league talent. The AAA team has some guys who we've talked about. Sagazi, right? He's good enough to play in the MLB, and then you look at I think this all kind of started with this Mason Wynn offensive breakout because Mason Wynn's a good player when he's a league average bat, and now he's been a substantially above league average bat. 126 WRC plus. He's consistently been that guy this whole year, just doing a little bit more of everything offensively. He's walking a bit more. The defense is still great. That's a 4-WAR shortstop, which is those are the kind of guys that these playoff teams need. Is at your cornerstone positions. You've got dudes who can play a bunch of games and play elite level defense while getting it done offensively. Even Jordan Walker is having a horrible year, and I think at some point he's probably the odd man out coming up now that Nootbaar is kind of taken over with Burleson in the corners, and Brendan Donovan is one of my favorite players in the league because he just gets it done, right? Just uber consistent. Like we were talking about earlier, he's due for a contract extension. They are kind of doing this 2 timelines thing. They've got the young guys and the old guys. But yeah, I think building around the edges for the trade deadline is perfectly reasonable. I'm not as high on their starting rotation as you are. I know Michaelis has actually been surprisingly very good. Same with Plante, but come a playoff series, if you have one of those guys, starting, a little scary. So we'll kind of have to see what they do with a lot of pitching depth in the minors too. I will say that the bullpen doesn't have any big names other than Helsley. Consistently gets it done. I mean, Phil Maton's like a dude back there. So it's an exciting team. I really like the Cardinals. I've switched my vibe on them. I was a hater to start the year, and now I'm a fan. Kind of moving on to our next thing here. You just released a great article on the DSL on prospectslive.com. Do you kind of want to walk us through some of the names that you mentioned in the DSL now that that's you're starting to go?
Yep. Now the stars of tomorrow are playing, because I do really think that the international game is really just pretty. That's where a lot of the stars come from. Ellie De La Cruz, Julio Rodriguez, Fernando Tatis. This guy named Juan Soto, who signed a bajillion-dollar contract, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I do think that the international game is still producing talent a little bit better than stateside, so I think it's worth highlighting these guys. Again, I don't have real looks on them like with my eyes, but I am able to, like I mentioned, these teams are posting the YouTube streams, presumably for the players' families and not for a nincompoop like myself. But we're seeing a bunch of really interesting prospects continue to come from this level. So it's where the stars of tomorrow are start off their careers. The biggest name that was probably made a big impact was Josuar de Jesus Gonzalez of the San Francisco Giants. He added a last name from when he signed, which is pretty cool. Makes it harder for to write down. He's got to be one of those big long last names. Like, what's his name? Christian Encarnacion Strand. That's a long ass jersey. But yeah, he was fantastic. Started off the season 3 for 4 with a double, 2 runs. He's really projectable. He's really quick and twitchy. I think that he I feel like I'm using a lot of like generic terms here, but like there's power projection here. He looked good in the field when I watched him play. I was able to find one of those teams. Like I said, they posted their YouTube stream. The Giants, if you watch their game, you can watch their games in real time, but they do not allow them to stay saved on the YouTube. So if you want to watch Josuar de Jesus, you got to watch him live, or turn it on and then go back and watch it. But he's been really, really exciting. Obviously, he's one of the bigger names and buzzier names. Elian Pena, he's smaller than I thought he was going to be. For some reason I thought he was going to be some massive guy. He's 5'10" with good power, good contact, and good plate skills. We're going to see how that sort of goes. And then some lower ranked guys. I mean, your Mariners, they kept their 2024 crop back a little bit. Dawel Joseph and Leandro Romero. And I tried to mention in the article that normally you ding a guy for being held back, but I do think that some of these teams are starting to understand that the domestic roster limits and stuff. So maybe they're going to keep some of these guys in the DSL, allow them to slow play a little bit longer. And then the Mariners, when the Mariners bring you stateside, you have a chance to fly through the minors. So when they think you're ready, they give you the green light and go. So they did with a bunch of their guys. Carlos Done of the Brewers is one of them. He was part of that fantastic class. I mean, hell, if they get a third or a fourth guy from Luis Pena and Jesus Mate, that's a fantastic class. Hyverson Lopez is with the Guardians top guy. He kind of reminds me of Francisco Mejia. Francisco Mejia was a better catcher. Classic Guardians prototype. We're talking about good bat to ball skills. Power is questionable, but makes really good contact. I love the Royals and what they're doing. Warren Calceño. Calceño is awesome. Quick bat. He's like a better version of Yanyaker Ugarte, who's someone who I absolutely love. We talked about him in one of our recent episodes. And then just to go off, I'll give one more name, because if you want to read it, go subscribe to Prospects Live. It's $5 a month, and honestly, you get something like this once a week. I'm aiming for every Tuesday. A name I kind of like more than it seems like anybody else, because I was looking, I was just trying to see where other people rank these guys. I like Carlos Torres of the Texas Rangers. He's catcher, stays back there, and Kevin Alvarez. I love Hayden Alvarez. They're not related. And the last I checked, one's from Cuba and one's from I think the Dominican Republic. So it'd be kind of hard to be related, but you never know. Things happen. It's only 1 year apart between them, but very similar profile, speed, athleticism, maybe good bat to balls, and we'll see how the power develops.
Moving on to another prospect, moving off the DSL now. Denzel Clark is up with the Athletics and might be one of the best defenders in baseball, right in that Rafaela PCA kind of realm in center field, but he can't hit anything. What's your kind of long-term outlook here with Denzel Clark?
Looking at his Fangraphs page for his Major League debut is almost like, it's kind of hilarious. 1 home run, 61% strikeout rate. Like, we're talking about a guy who just cannot stop swinging and missing, but he has 3 stolen bases. So maybe he'll get like Chandler Simpson, and like the fantasy people, which no shots at them, will think that he's a lot better player than he is because he's stolen a lot of bases. But he, it's a guy who can't hit, and it's going to take a while with him if he is ever going to figure it out. He's been a guy who's been kind of a slower burn. He's never really had the dominant season that you think his tools would have, but he's a good athlete. I think he'll figure it out. I think it just might take a little bit of time, and I don't know if I was about to say Oakland, if Sacramento is going to give him the time to figure it out.
I hope they do, because I think they've lost like 9 out of their last 10 games. There's just not a whole lot. I mean, playoffs were fun for the first 20 games when Sacramento was doing well. The Athletics are not a playoff team this year. I don't see why you don't give Clark a chance to kind of figure out in center field. I think he's kind of their only true center fielder on their roster. They have some fun corner outfield pieces who could be, ready this year. And this minor league season was so interesting for Clark because he completely changed his approach, walking a whole lot more, striking out less, and the power went away. He's hit 1 home run so far or in the MLB this year. It almost feels like he lost his AAA approach that he was actually doing so well in. It was more repeatable, in my opinion, when he was walking and striking out near 20% rates, and the power wasn't there, but that's okay because he's such a pristine defender in center field. I think the floor is high enough where they almost have to keep giving him some chances. Maybe he'll be a send down for a couple of weeks to try and make some adjustments and then come on back up. But I think in September, Denzel Clark should be, playing, 28 out of 28 games or whatnot. I have some belief for Clark just because of the center field highlights are fun to watch, man. And I think it's becoming a fun Sacramento team right in front of our eyes as these guys get called up.
I'm with you. Like, sometimes you see guys and they struggle a little bit. Like Parker Meadows is now a good is a good player in the major league level. He had to get called up and then sent down a couple of times, I believe. So we're talking about, it takes some of these guys a little bit longer, especially someone who's as physically imposing and has big levers. When you get to be 6'5", it takes you a while to get that swing all sort of dialed in, especially against the best pitchers in the entire world. Who going from AAA to the major leagues, the gap has never been further. So it's, oh dang it, the White Sox beat the Tigers. So in extras. So they whopped them 13-1, and then they lost the other 2 games. Baseball's a crazy sport, and I think that speaking with that, Denzel Clark is going to be a fun story, and I agree with you. He's probably going to get sent down to Vegas, just be told to work on some things, and then maybe he comes up the second half of the season. Then we really get a better chance to reevaluate him.
He's too good not to get another chance, but
yeah.
Moving into kind of our last little discussion here is I just want to check in on the MLB standings right now and get your thoughts on, what teams do you think are contenders and which ones are pretenders, to use, a fun word there. So starting in the AL East, the Yankees have run away in a sense with the division already. Do you believe that will continue to be the case? And do you see any other playoff teams in this division or any fun second half teams in this division?
You can never count out the Rays. The Rays just sort of always lurk, but I think that they have a better chance to be sellers than anything like that. They have a few pieces that could sell Yandy Diaz. They could sell a bunch of their relievers and get top dollar for them. If you look at it right now, the Yankees, the Rays, and the Blue Jays are no one's gaining in that division because they're all 7-3 in their last 10 games. So even the Orioles are 8-2. The Orioles aren't technically dead yet. There's a chance that they could get back into it, not in the division, but the wild card chances. I think that the Yankees are the only contenders in this division. Maybe the Rays can get a little sneaky, and who knows? The Blue Jays do have good pitching. They have Vlad Guerrero Jr. Bo Bichette might be able to figure it out, but I do think they need to trade Bo Bichette. I think they need to get something before he leaves, unless they really value the comp pick as much as I do.
Yeah, I see both the Rays and Blue Jays as guys or as teams who are not prepped for a deep playoff run. Therefore, I think that they should probably sell, regardless of if they're hovering around 500, because they could be really good in a year or two. Moving on to the AL Central, your Tigers are 6 games up on the Twins and 6.5 up on the Guardians. Kansas City's lurking around there at 32-29. Our beloved Chicago White Sox are out of the playoff picture, as you can imagine. Who do you think is the number 2 team in this division?
Going into the season, I thought the Tigers were going to win this division. I didn't think they were going to run away with it like this. They're winning just, every sort of way, except against the White Sox for some reason. you can't really count out the Guardians. They always figure a way to make things competitive. But I think it's the Twins' year to be the number 2 team. I've always picked them. I don't know if I've ever told you this. It's probably one of my biggest flaws is I routinely pick the Twins to win the World Series. And these past 2 years have been nice. I've kind of got off that. I feel like a new man. I feel like I changed into new clothes, lost some weight and everything like that. The pressure of that is off of them. But Byron Buxton's been fantastic. I think that the Twins have a chance. They have enough pieces, and their pitching's good outside of, I think Pablo Lopez just went down today or yesterday, which has not been fun. But I think they have some pieces in the rotation. Zebby Matthews can take a step forward, and I think they can make a trade or two if they really want to get into this because, the American League is kind of wide open for the wild card spots. There's one division up for grabs, it seems like right now, that we'll talk about here in a second, and then all the wild cards you sort of can just toss your hat in the ring, and I think the Twins, the Guardians, the Royals are all sort of live for one of those wild card spots.
I agree 100%. I saw Minnesota about a week ago. I saw Zebby Matthews pitch live. Actually, maybe his best major league outing, despite giving up 4 runs in the first inning. Really settled in after that. I think their season kind of hinges on guys like him. They're the back end of their rotation being able to actually get it done this year. But when we made our predictions in our spring training daily sheet, I picked the Twins to come out of the AL. Which, so apparently I didn't learn from you, or I didn't know that this used to be your thing, because I took it right over. I love them on paper. I love the bullpen. I love a lot of things about the Twins. I do think that they could use a piece or two, but the lineup excites me, and I think that they have a good enough, top 3 in the rotation to, make some noise in the playoffs. Moving on to the AL West, Houston and Seattle are pretty much in lockstep at the top of this division. They've been close all year long. Texas is starting to fall back a little bit, but they're only 4.5 out of the division. It's not the most exciting division this year. Not a whole lot of winning baseball being played. What do you think about the Houston, Seattle, Texas kind of combo up there at the top?
You're really gonna discount the Angels? Yeah, no. It's someone has to win this division. It feels like. Legally they have to, right? The Astros just seem to be the incumbents. They always, what is it? Every season it seems like we're always talking about are the Astros going to fall off? And then this season just seems like this might actually be the fall off. And nope, they're right back where we think they are, top of the division. I think I'm going to pick the Mariners honestly to win this division. The Rangers are just better off selling off pieces for scraps. It's not going to be a fun rebuild if this team is going to be needing, because Evan Carter didn't develop the way that they wanted to, and that's not their fault. It's not their fault that his back got all sorts of messed up, and so it's going to be one of those things where they're going to have a very expensive and lengthy rebuild. I would try and trade any piece that they can, honestly, at this point.
They got a lot of older pitchers who are having very good seasons this year. 3 come to mind right off the top, and
one of them you wouldn't have expected.
Right, and that's the perfect guy to trade at this point. Of course, we're referring to Tyler Mahle here, and they don't necessarily have the pitching depth in the minors that I necessarily love. Like Leiter and Rocker are the future, granted, and Leiter's looked pretty good lately. That's the kind of guy you build around. Probably not the DeGroms of the world at this point, but I don't even know if do you see them trading DeGrom? What can they get back for a guy like that? Big contract, injury history, all that. He's looked good this year. Not great, but he's been good.
When DeGrom is healthy, he is still one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. The problem is he ever going to be healthy enough to do it? Let me pull up their roster resource page, because that gives me a better idea of what they could trade. Because this lineup, Jake Berger did not turn out the way I thought. I thought they absolutely robbed the Marlins. I was like, that is a highway robbery. That's like one where the league should step in. But nope, apparently not. Wyatt Langford's developing into a superstar question mark before our very eyes. Josh Young, when he plays, is still electric, but the question is, when does he play? So they could trade Berger. Heim would get probably quite a bit. DeGrom, Mahle, they had that weird thing where they had to come out and say we're looking at turning Kumar Rocker into a reliever, which was kind of scary. But I think they have a bunch of pieces to move off. This bullpen is god awful. It is one of the worst bullpens you'll ever see, of a team that tried to compete this year. It's so bad. Robert Garcia, Luke Jackson, Sean Armstrong, Kobe Miller, Jacob Webb, Cole Winn, Jacob Latz, and Caleb Balshi. How many of them would break into a bullpen for the Dodgers or the Yankees, the Tigers? One of these teams we're talking about is a legit contender. I don't think any of them do.
I think Robert Garcia and Hobie Milner are the only 2 guys who I'm like, maybe because they're lefties, and you're like, all right, some team needs that. They're one of the most barren farm systems of relief pitchers as well in my dynasty closer hierarchy. I don't have much excitement about anything going on down there, even though they have a couple guys who can kind of run up the fastball and stuff like that. They don't have a future closer. They don't have a current closer. They don't have a current bullpen, and there isn't help coming. So they really need to reevaluate how they identify relievers and how they develop them, because it has not worked this year and honestly in recent history. Moving on to the NL now, we've got New York at first place in the NL East. Game and a half back are the Philadelphia Phillies. The Braves at 27-34. The Nationals are ahead of them. Do you see the Braves making a comeback here to kind of compete for the playoffs with the Mets and the Phillies? And who do you prefer out of those two?
I'm going to go. I like the Mets a lot more. I think their ability to just continually spin pitching. They basically stolen all the good parts of the Brewers from the years past and sort of brung that with them with more money to spend. I think that's sort of I think the Mets might run away with this division, honestly. But the Phillies are also they're a contender as well. And I do not think the Braves are going to do it. I just don't think they have the horses. Players are getting injured. I think they're going to trade Chris Sale, which seems kind of crazy to say. But, I mean, kind of just punt the season, build for next year. Maybe they spend a little bit. Maybe they get Dylan Cease. Maybe they get a Michael King. There's some avenues for this team. Spencer Strider has not looked as great as he has been in the past. I think he's just had it takes a little bit sometimes with Tommy John. So I just think that the Mets and the Phillies, the class this division. And if I had to pick right now, I'm going to go with the Mets because I think I like their pitching more. Their offense is, for how much you hear about it on Twitter, their offense is really, really good. It's just Juan Soto hasn't been blowing the doors off anybody, but he's been exactly what you expect Juan Soto if you're a realistic baseball fan. He gets on base, he hits for power. He does have some times where he likes to hit the ball on the ground a little too much, but that's fine. Like that's just what comes with being the third or fourth best hitter in the world. But the Phillies, I think that they're going to be really aggressive at this deadline. Jesus Luzardo's regression has hit like a ton of bricks. Like I think I saw something that was like 20 earned runs in his last 5 2/3 innings. Like we're talking about like an epic fall off. So yeah, like it's one of those things where I think that I really like. I think this division has 2 contenders, and I think it's just a bunch of jabronis at the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I also strongly agree with your Braves point there, man. If you're starting Nick Allen at shortstop, you clearly have a depth problem. The Braves' lack of depth got exposed this year, and pair that with a couple, so-so seasons from some key contributors, and it's just simply not enough to get it done. I cannot believe that Bryce Elder is still starting games for the Braves. I've never been a big fan of his. And I think moving Chris Sale makes a lot of sense at this point because he is going to sign for a bunch of money this offseason with a different team in a DeGrom-like deal. So yeah, I just don't see where they go this year. I think that they have to start building for next year. At least they've got a guy like Drake Baldwin, right? Another guy to build around. They have fun pieces, but I just don't see it this year, man. I don't.
Yeah, I mean you have Acuna, Albies, Murphy, Riley. Who else? Who's their first baseman? I forget. Matt Olson. Ozuna. I don't know if you want to build around. Yeah, for the Braves. I'm talking about just their offensive core. Their offensive core is good. They just need to find a shortstop, and they really need to find a what do you call it? They really need to find some pitching depth because it's that their way in which they built their roster is very weird. The way they draft and develop is very weird. It's very pitching focused. So and it's not like they're using these pitchers to turn into hitters in trades, or maybe they do start to do that, like the Yankees tend to do. So it's just this is what happens when you don't have any depth on your offense. Like there's nothing there. Like White is really good, but I just think that or Nick Allen, is really good. They had Eli White for a long time, but he's not a major league hitter. He's a very common major league defender, a really good one, but just not a good hitter.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not the kind of guy that you're going to shortstop on a World Series caliber team, which the Braves could be.
Yeah.
NL Central here, we've got the Cubs in first place, 4.5 up on the Cardinals, 5 up on the Brewers. The Reds are at 30-33, and then the Pirates are an absolute disaster right now. I know we've talked about our Cardinals fandom. What do you kind of make of some of these other teams? Are the Cubs a legit World Series contender? Kind of what are your thoughts there?
I think the Cubs are a legit World Series contender. I think that if they make the right moves, they need to attack this trade deadline more aggressively than almost anybody else. They need to really rehaul that rotation. Matthew Boyd is their number one start. This is their rotation right now. Matthew Boyd, Colin Ray, Ben Brown, Jamison Tyone, Cade Horton. Ben Brown's a reliever. He's going to be so good in the back of the bullpen, it's not even going to be funny. Because he either gets swings and misses or the ball gets launched a million miles. Kate Horton's been really good, honestly. The bullpen needs a lot of work, but that's something that they can figure out. They have the prospects to make the trades. I think they have a chance to be a really good competitive team if they want to really empty the farm system out a little bit.
I agree. Certainly. I'm super worried about their bullpen. I think they need minimum of 2+ pieces back there. And as we've seen in recent history, you're going to have to give up some prospect capital to get really good relievers, and they need a true closer, which is going to cost them. I'm not even sure if there is like a true closer on the market. I don't know if anyone comes to mind. Like, they could be a team for like a Bednar, but is he like a true closer type?
Do you want to be banking on Bednar is the question.
Exactly. So I actually wonder who they even trade for to kind of fix the bullpen. There'll always be guys. Maybe like a Felix Bautista becomes available for the Orioles. I don't know. There are definitely options, but they need some impact relievers, and the lineup just needs to keep producing. I mean, the Michael Busch, breakout, even though he's already been pretty good, has been really fun to see this year. The PCA too. I mean, their lineup is littered with just great hitters, and Matt Shaw is hitting 9, and he's quietly been, one of the better young hitters in baseball since his return to the big leagues. And I think the rotation will kind of straighten itself out. I mean, Shota will come back and kind of give them that true number 1. And I think Shota's good enough to, make some waves in the playoffs. But it's going to come down to the pitching when we actually get there.
I mean, Kyle Finnegan might be the best reliever on the market right now that I'm looking at with the Nationals. And even then, is he the guy? Is he someone that you really want to rely on? I mean, Porter Hodge is fantastic when healthy. He's probably their best reliever. But yeah, this is a team that needs to make a big reliever. And if I remember correctly, who did you pick to win the NL Central? Did you pick the Reds, right? Or was that someone else on staff?
I have no idea. I could have. I liked all those teams except for the Cardinals and Pirates. If I'm being honest, I would have flipped the Reds and the Cardinals in my mind when I was looking at this division. But I think that this one was always kind of like a crapshoot to me. But the Cubs, granted, they've done it without the pitching. So kudos to them. Our last division here, NL West, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Diamondbacks. We're not even going to mention the R word on this podcast. That is the Rockies, actually, because there is another R word. I don't want to get confused. The Dodgers, are they just shuffled into the number 1 seed in this division, or could you see anything being shaken up here?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres did it, but I think the Padres are better off in their current state of affairs. I think they're going to lose King. They're going to lose Pivetta. They're going to lose Cease. I think that they have a chance to make some trades and maybe even, maybe get a wild card spot. But I think they need to, restock their farm system a little bit. I think the Dodgers are going to run away with this division. I don't believe the Giants. I just don't, in general, believe their organizational practice. I don't believe they're a real team. And the Diamondbacks, I think they're just, pitching injuries are just starting to stack up. Brandon Pfaadt I don't know if you saw this tweet. It was Brandon Pfaadt had the first yes hitter of all time. And then Corbin Burns is probably done for the season, if not next season as well. So, I mean, Merrill Kelly's their best pitcher. He's honestly going to be one of the better pitching targets at the trade deadline. I would trade, 50 cents, 10 to 15 cents on the dollar. Not 50 cents, that's a lot. 10 to 15 cents on the dollar to get him. Tag that on. And then the Rockies, man, they got their first series win. You can't take that away from them.
You're right. Congrats to our boys in Colorado. I just don't think the Padres can sustain where they're at. The rotation is not great as it stands right now, and they have to really consider moving at least 1 or 2 of these guys because you're not going to be able to probably re-sign more than one of them. Pivetta, I'm just waiting for him to go back to the Nick Pivetta that we are accustomed to, and I think that could happen any day now. I think that he would be a great option to sell high on since he has been so good. But the lack of prospect depth, the lack of MLB depth, I mean, Tyler Wade is your left fielder. Elias Diaz is your catcher. Gavin Sheets is getting, everyday kind of DH reps. It's just not good enough, in my opinion, to take down a team like the Dodgers. I really like the Diamondbacks and the Giants, honestly, but they're just not quite in the same stratosphere. I'll be interested to see how this division actually ends up, and if the Padres can kind of hold off, the Giants. I think the Diamondbacks are probably cost them their season with their pitching. But I think it'll be a fun battle to see, if the Giants can actually kind of sustain this run, because on paper it's not the sexiest team ever, but they're getting it done. I don't know if you have any
fuck analytics basically the entire time. They're going out of their way to be like, we hate analytics, numbers, nerds. We don't have nerds in San Francisco, despite it being right by the Bay Area, and you think they would tap into some of the smartest, just general mathematic minds that there are, but whatever, right? The Giants are doing whatever they're going to do. I just don't believe it. I have a hard time believing what they're doing. But, I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee's been fantastic. Heliot Ramos has been good. Wilmer Flores has been good. Matt Chapman has been fantastic, looking like a really good thing. They just DFA'd, what was his name? Lamont Wade for Dominic Smith, of all people. And the rotation's good. Logan Webb continues to be the most underrated ace in all of baseball. He just continues to, 8 innings. It feels like every single start, 6 or 7 strikeouts, because he's not the biggest strikeout guy. Kyle Harrison's back in the rotation, which shout out to those of us who still believe. Robbie Ray is still kicking. Justin Verlander went on the IL. And that's a good bullpen. Like, that's one thing I'm not going to take away from them. They have a good bullpen. Camilo Duvall, Randy Rodriguez, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Walker, Eric Miller, Tristan Beck. It's a good relief core. It's just I don't know. The offense doesn't have that like star unless Jung-Hoo Lee is sneakily becoming that star.
Yeah, I think that they hoped Willy Adames was going to be that, and he never was. But he'll be a good enough big league player for them. I love the pitching side of the Giants. It's one of my favorite rotations and bullpens in the league. I think it might be my favorite bullpen in the league right now. Randy Rodriguez is one of the best relievers in baseball right now, and he's not even
like a stuff plus demon.
He's not even in line for saves, because you have Doval and you had Ryan Walker, who will inevitably go back into leverage. Like, your 7th inning guy has been Randy Rodriguez all year, and Tyler Rogers, who are two incredible relievers. They have a bullpen, and it'll be interesting to see if they do end up selling. They will have bullpen pieces that are going to be highly desired by other teams, along with starting pitching. Like, Robbie Ray is a great kind of trade candidate for a contending team who might need a lefty, and who's been performing like the Robbie Ray of old, who won a Cy Young. So they have pieces. I don't know if I'm in on them, winning a playoff series or whatnot, but they have fun pieces, and I would love to see them add to the offense by subtracting from the pitching side. I think that's going to do it for us, though, here, Rhys, on our minor league and MLB news. It's been great talking ball with you once again, and up next we'll actually have an interview with Matt Thompson that you and Drew will be doing, and I'm looking forward to listening to that when the show comes out. So thank you very much, and we'll be right back after the break.
All right, welcome back to the show, and thank you to the Drop Teens for that lovely tune we were hearing. Rhys, you and I are joined by a gentleman who, for all intents and purposes, had his life not gotten even more busy than it characteristically is, we would have been recording with a lot more often. It is your boss, my boss, a teammate of both of us, though not a teammate of both of us at the same time, a man that wears many hats, but today his hat is a Prospects Live hat. It is Matt Thompson. Matt, it's great to have you on deck, buddy.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a nice little show here. Sorry to come on here and ruin it for y'all, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. I like that. Without Nate, we have the average age of someone that can legally drink. That's pretty.
So I've never seen Nate before. Is he even a real person?
Nate is real.
No,
he is
he's not.
I just figured it was Rhys. Like, Rhys felt bad about doing all this stuff, so he just changed his name so he gets two Prospects Live checks.
Well, I'll let you.
That's what the new hire is. That's just me. I just changed my voice.
Great.
That's what I said. Yeah, I figured it was you. Just Rhys has two guys. Like, he's like, oh, this Nate guy's awesome, huh, guys? Right. It's like
the AI.
Rhys next year might see a lot of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
AI knows no bounds. Well, Matt,
I'm gonna miss Nate, but I'll have to catch him later, I guess.
Without a doubt, you'll have to come back. It's nice to have you on the show, and we talked about what we wanted to talk about with you because we've had various other staffers on the show, and at first we thought, let's interview Matt. Let's talk about his baseball career, what got him into Prospects Live. Uh-oh. And Matt, in your own words, you said that would be a boring conversation. Well, I disagree.
Talking about yourself is the worst thing to do in the world. So
it is grading. I feel
I'd
like
much rather talk about Sal Stewart or something.
Well, convenient you mentioned, because I believe that's a name we're going to talk about. So, you guys at home, the purpose of us interviewing Matt today is we are going to talk a little bit about the history of Prospects Live. For any of you out there that are history nerds or just curious about that kind of thing, we're going to talk about that a little bit. But then we're going to get into the process that Matt and myself are currently going through, and it is a hellacious process. And then a process that Matt and Rhys also deal with in a different way, list making at Prospects Live. I know that this week in the Twitter sphere, in the fantasy baseball scape, a lot of people are talking about lists. New lists have dropped. Who ranks who where? And Rhys, if I can steal one of your phrases, man, let's talk a little bit about how the sausage is made in terms of how we make our lists and how we rank players at Prospects Live. So before we get into that, though, Matt, tell us what you remember about how Prospects Live was formed.
Yeah. Couple of baseball sickos. We all came together and didn't like the state of how things were, like in the public space of like fantasy in different places, right? Fantasy and real baseball stuff were all at different places and different writers, and we didn't like some of the fantasy lists. And everyone's got their own preferences, your own opinion and stuff. So it was myself, Jeff Ponce, who's the main driver of most of everything that went on at the beginning, Jason Waddell, Lance Brosdowski, and Jason Panini. Some of those names may sound familiar to or not if you need, but all those guys, we came together, had a big interest in baseball, started to come up with this idea of Prospects Live and what we thought it could be, what we wanted it to be. And yeah, I think that's the way we got to where we are and started just doing organic lists. Like we've seen a lot of new sites come and go, right? We all had different, places where we wrote before and kind of just, we didn't like it, what we were doing, and came together and made this and took a lot of ideas and expanded on them that we've always wanted to do, make it original. I mean, we made our own top 30s in the first couple of years that we all wrote. Like we did it differently than we do it now. Like we were all in charge of just one team. And like you'd have to, like I had to do the top 30 Diamondbacks, Cubs. I think I did beginning Diamondbacks, Cubs, Cardinals. Like I did. We all had like 5 or 6 teams we did top 30s for, and we just wrote the whole thing up. And at the time, we weren't very sourced, right? We didn't have any resources to go off of. We were a brand new kind of site, just getting along. And I think we became very credible very fast, mostly due to other, the great work people were doing there. And before you know it, we have, people reaching out to us, asking us about prospects from team sources, and you build contacts and you build names. And I think we get people like, I think Rhys was referred to us through people, like, you know what I mean? Like people just end up knowing who we are, and just kind of built it into what it is now, which I'm very excited about. Tried to be like originally, and hats off to them. And I think this might've been a very ambitious goal, but we, wanted to be like a alternative version of what Baseball America kind of morphed into, because they weren't really doing fantasy stuff at that time, right? They were just strict real baseball, college baseball, and like that was it. They weren't doing any fantasy stuff, and we kind of tried to combine all that. And a lot of the Daily Sheet came out was one of our big main ideas that until that point I really didn't see anybody doing that. I think Baseball America Kevin Sickles might have done like a hot sheet too, where he would like literally just email you box score lines for top prospects. I don't know if any other sickos were a subscriber to that, because I was, but like you get no context behind it, but it would say, whatever prospect 3 for 5 double, just single line, go down a list. And that's all it was. And Baseball America had something similar to that. But now this Daily Sheet has really kind of separated us. I think that was one of the greatest things we ever did. Still do it, obviously, now. And yeah, I just think the website kind of turned into what it is. And the ironic part is I think we've become more notable for the people we've had on staff now than almost anything else, because, I mean, we've turned into quite the factory for major league teams and other organizations for like talent, right? A lot of people come through Prospects Live and end up elsewhere, which is great for the site, great for them individually, and that's what it's about, right? So if you have an interest and passion for baseball and get along with other people and can work well and collaborate, like odds are we'll sit down and listen to you if you want to potentially write. This is a good spot to start, I think, and it turns into that for a lot of people. And you guys wouldn't be here if you didn't want to be. No one's making you be here, right? So like, and I don't know. I just think it's a fun place to talk baseball with everybody. I'm happy to see everybody getting what they want out of the site, number one, and the site having success, number two, because you can't have number two without number one in that aspect. So it's been awesome, and just excited to see where we go now. Obviously, new transition period happening with the site now. Excited to see what it can become with more time and more resources available that we now have.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was a fun idea coming together with all these guys. I mean, you see Lance Brozdowski now is on Marquee breaking down and he's got his own stuff. I don't think there's a better person at breaking down pitchers in the public space than Lance, right? Jeff Ponce's work speaks for himself. I mean, he's Prospect Jesus was one of the best handles anyone's ever had, and any social media site, and he's really, everyone. If he says something, you listen, you read it, right? Because it's like it's the gospel when he speaks about a player, or prospect, or a process, or anything like that. And then I know like Dylan White came around. He wasn't a founder, but he was instrumental with RoboScout growing that to what it is. Obviously, Smata came around after we got started for a while, and we kind of had differing opinions on what we wanted to do with sites, and different personalities kind of clashed, and we found Smata, who was willing to be our like president and kind of just lead us. Like disagreement here and there, we kind of hashed it out there, and we took it and kind of ran with what he did, and it helped us out a lot. Stay on track, stay focused, and he is a wizard with the back end stuff that I can't even dream about doing, like site maintenance and building all these apps out. Like he does that by himself, which is incredible because I wouldn't even know where to start. But no, it's been great. It's grew really fast, really quickly, and we've continued to grow, and it's been very fun. And it's every once in a while, it's really fun and humbling to go through the list of subscribers because you get the emails, right? And you see like, holy cow, that guy subscribes to it. Like it's just cool to see, and it's reaffirming, and people actually care what we have to say at this site, so it's great. And our draft side, I haven't even mentioned our draft side. Joe Doyle on our draft side, it was fantastic. I still think, he's, if not he might be the best draft guy in the public space. Like, honestly, like Joe Doyle is just kick ass from the beginning. Tyler Jennings took over there, and Tyler was great as well. Tyler is fantastic as well. And watching Tyler grow as a person at the site has been great. Take more responsibilities on and do his thing. And obviously he's with Just Baseball now, which is great for him. I'm happy for him all there. And, draft side of this site over here continues to keep, doing well also. So, yeah, we've grown into this one-stop shop for baseball, which is kind of was the goal. And the baseball card edition has been great. I'm nervous I'm going to forget somebody because we have so many different ways, like
Yeah.
Joe and he brought on Max at the baseball card stuff has been great. It's just funny because I always laugh, and it's cool to see because now other sites do that stuff too, which they weren't doing it. You know what I mean? They weren't doing it originally because it's a great idea and it works, and it's a testament to Joe and the team, the side he's built over there. So like, I really enjoy what we do, and then Rhys coming in and leading the pro side has been great. Greg leading the fantasy side now has been great. Like it's everything there has been awesome, and it's time consuming, but in a good way, right? Like it's something that we want to do, and it's something that's fulfilling, and I get to scratch my itch and talk baseball, and also get my hand involved in a lot of different things, and then obviously meeting people like you guys has been one of the treats as well. So no, the site has been great. It's been, I'll be honest, it's probably bigger than I thought it was going to get, but that's a testament to the personalities that we had, right? I don't have much of a personality, but like other guys on this website were very vocal, very influential with how it grew, and I'm just fortunate to be here and be part of it. So no, Prospects Live has been great. It's been a big thing, and one of the bigger milestones in my life, probably growing this website and getting it to where it is. And other people have played bigger roles, obviously, than me, but it's just been really fun. I love it.
I think it's a little debatable to say others have played bigger roles than you. You've certainly played such a big part of of the site, and you are involved in so many different things. Matt, it's funny, Rhys, because Matt kept talking about how he didn't want to leave anybody out, but one guy whose kind of hand is in nearly every aspect of the site is sitting right here with us. It's Matt. And as we alluded to just a minute ago, Matt, you're part of multiple teams. Obviously, you're part of the leadership team. You and Rhys, you guys work in close unison on the pro scouting team. And we want to talk about something you said just a minute ago. We wouldn't be here if we didn't want to be here, but it does take time, and it is a labor of love in a lot of ways. One of the biggest labors of love is absolutely list making. Rhys, when it comes to making a list, Rhys, if you had to describe the process for you and Matt in a sentence, how would you describe that process for you and Matt? List making for the pro side.
It's going to be a very long sentence, but Matt makes it so easy. Matt just has a great list. Honestly, a lot of my list, we don't really disagree that much on prospects, so that's quite nice.
Our disagreements are like who should be third or fourth.
Exactly.
We were debating Eduardo Quintero for the Dodgers or Zaire Hope. Or excuse me. We were debating Joshua DePaulo or Zaire Hope. Like, how do you go wrong with either one?
Yeah, I don't think you can. That's
as far as
sort
our
of disagreements.
So
we don't get super heated or anything like that. So I think that's one of the nice things with Matt. And we also do incorporate the other people. Matt and I do put our thumb on the scale a little bit because we want to make sure that the list is sort of how we want it to be. And I think everyone acknowledges that. We do run, we make sure that everyone's voice is, listened to and everything.
Definitely.
That's the big thing for me is that I know in other places, there's the big people and it's their list and your voice isn't as heard. I want Prospects Live to be, it's probably not the most democratic list making, but there's some, you get your say, right? Like if you really feel super confident on a prospect and you really sell it to me and, as we sell it to Matt, I think I'll listen for sure. I'm willing to admit I'm wrong sometimes. I feel like this is a very long sentence.
You've devolved from a sentence, but I like what you're doing, so I'm not going to stop you.
You have to
go ahead.
You have, when you do this stuff, you have to be able to admit when you're wrong. You have to.
You have to.
I'm wrong all the time. Chandler
Likewise.
Simpson. Oh, I thought he could still be good. Don't get me wrong, but I just think I over-evaluated him. I gave him 55 when he should have been maybe a 50 or a 45. That's one of those things where I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong.
There are these, little tenets that you pick up on. And Matt, one that you said that I really like just then is you have to be able to admit that you're wrong. Even before we jumped on and started recording, we've been talking for a moment here, you and I, and then you and I and Rhys. And, there are things that everybody kind of struggles with. And there's blind spots for players or for demographics. And being able to step back and say, as much as I want this to work for this guy, what are the odds it actually works? What am I just being blind? And that's difficult because taking yourself out of it is removing the human element that is, it's what separates us from the animals and what separates us from a spreadsheet ranking somebody. It is, you have to have that human element mixed in. But let's talk about the list making process in a little bit more of a granular way, Matt. Yeah. What's a demographic of prospect that you just can't quit no matter what? And it might be something that's going to be bad for you, but man, it's just like that chocolate chip cookie in the middle of the night. You can't quit it.
Can't quit it. I have the biggest thing for me is being on the fantasy side and the real life side. There are a lot of differences in these lists. And one of the things that carries over a little bit too much for me on the fantasy side is like catchers. Like Kyle Teal, I would probably, I think my wife's asleep, so I can say this a little bit. I would probably give up one of my kids to have Kyle Teal in my favorite team, organization, because I like him so much. But in the fantasy list, he doesn't pop, right? Because it's his best. I think his best trade is his. He just got called up today, so congrats to Kyle Teal. Kyle Teal and Marcelo Mayer before Roman Anthony. Who would have known? But anyways, Kyle Teal is. This is a good example because I think his best skill is his defense, but he also is a really good bat. So I think for a fantasy list, you're not really going to want all those, how many catchers are relevant in your fantasy league, right? 12, maybe 15, depending on where you're at, right? And, so that's top half of the league only. Other half of the league is not really relevant. So catcher defense and catchers matter a lot. And a big thing on a real life list, not so much a top 100 because these type of players don't make top 100s, but when you're doing an organizational list, I may push down like non-starters with real upside, maybe a little farther than I should. Like backhand starters are pretty valuable for real teams, right? And they're going to make your top 20s. If you have a guy that's going to be a bona fide number 4 starter, even number 5, they're probably going to make it. But in fantasy, do you want those guys that much? Probably not, right? But if they're close to the big leagues and again, that's just knowing your league, right? I mean, who's an average big league starter? Like,
I would have said Brandon Pfaadt, but his last start makes me think that he's not the yes hitter,
Right.
as we called it on Twitter.
I always come back to like Michael Wacha. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But like, how many years of Michael Wacha's very good big league career was he not really fantasy relevant? Enough, right? And not in a dynasty league, you're not holding them for 8
All
years.
of those years. You
Right.
haven't had Wacha for the duration of his career.
Right. So like, there's a lot of guys like that, which are perfectly good, obviously, but like you don't need the only starter pitchers you should care about in fantasy and at the dynasty level in the lower levels are like Chase Burns or guys with the. Can we swear on this podcast? The guys with the big. We
try not to swear.
I'm not going to. I'll keep it.
Loose and light swears.
Sure. Yeah.
Rhys have we ever? I think we try to be family friendly.
You guys should keep it family friendly. You don't need me ruining your stuff. But
okay, irrelevant.
When I put on my Nate mask, I'll start swearing.
Does Nate swear? Does Nate say swears, or does he get soap in his mouth? Still?
He's still probably young enough that he's getting soap in his mouth. His mom listens to the podcast too. So
yeah, Matt, we didn't tell you, Matt. Our biggest fan is actually Nate's mom, and we've talked about how Nate's mom is great. She loves me and Rhys both. She loves us.
That's good.
I think we're going to get care packages. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think we're going to get care packages from Nate's mom at some point.
That's good. Congrats to you guys.
I'm not, and I'm not saying that Mama Rasmussen to incur it. I just mean that I have been, we've been blessed to have your fandom. Rhys, really quick, man. Same kind of question to you. What's a demographic of prospect that whenever you're making a list, you just can't quit it, or maybe it's a demographic of prospect that you just want nothing to do with?
Oh, I don't want anything to do with first base prospects. I would rather not touch them with a 10-foot pole.
That's the easy answer for me too, but I didn't go there.
And then a demographic of prospect, Matt, have you noticed there's like a demographic of prospect that I like more than you do? I don't know if there is. I think
Australian guys.
Australian guys, well, that comes without saying. There's a guy that the Tigers have in the complex. Let me tell you.
No, I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I mean,
I love speedsters. I used to. Something came over me this offseason, and I love speedsters. I was big on Enrique Bradfield Jr. I was big on Chandler Simpson. Do you know what? I always hope that these guys who I think are going to be fourth outfielders are going to start hitting. I'm going to buy in on Vance Honeycutt every single time because, like, if he figures out how to hit, that's a 5-WAR player right there.
On a fantasy list, you should. On a fantasy list, you 100% should. He should be owned in every league that he's in because of what can maybe happen if it works.
Yeah, but it won't work. I don't think it will. I
don't think it will either. But if you're in
I'm going to delude myself into thinking that it will.
If you're in a 20-teamer, like someone's got to take a chance, right? Like,
absolutely.
Because the mishit on a player like that is a really good fourth outfielder. You can play all 3 defensive positions. You're a good runner. You might be able to, run into a couple home runs when given playing time. There's a lot of avenues for that profile. So maybe I'm really in on the toolsy fourth outfielder types that are ultimately going to be fourth outfielders, but I'm always going to think they're going to be more. That's my kryptonite.
I'm right there with you on all that. But first basemen are hard, especially right-handed hitting first baseman, because can't even play the matchup game or platoon game when they're on the short side. If they do, I think Rhys, what'd you say, 25 home run? You're looking for a guy.
I want a guy who's
25 home runs. You want no part of it, which I completely agree with that.
I almost don't want to rank a first base prospect until he hits 25 home runs in the major leagues, which basically tells you I don't really want to rank them if I don't have to.
Yeah. So Ben Rice is struggle for you.
Ben Rice.
There
are ones that I like. There are ones that I like. Like I like Nick Kurtz because I think he's going to hit 25 home runs, right? Like I think he's going to do it, pretty comfortably throughout his peak years. I do like Kaggs, even though he's probably going to play left field, right?
He's right
Rhys, what about Kyle Manzardo, Rhys?
I was not a big Kyle. You know what? Matt and I were not big Kyle Manzardo guys.
I noticed.
I think we were the lowest guys on Manzardo.
I don't know. I'm not afraid of that. So far, I think we've been kind of okay with that. But like Chase, like, what do you do with like a Chase Mydroth though? Because I like him, but like he's a tough guy to rank because right, he's very league dependent on what you were looking for. The power and steal numbers might not be there, but it's OBP. Like it's very different leagues for going to value him in a different way. But like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry to be random, but like guys like that are hard to rank too because
especially in a real life setting.
Yes,
he's not a good defender anywhere. He's such a good hitter, but he's he's not one of the worst.
I think we had him in the top 100 preseason, which I'm perfectly fine with because I think
we did because we think he's going to hit, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to hit for a long time. And
he is right now. I think right now the slash line right now is like almost what I could have predicted in my like dreams. 302, 380, the slugging 360 is like perfect. Exactly who the person we thought he was going to be. But
I'll call that
a 10-year big league career. Like that's just that's
tailor made for that. That's exactly 100%.
I think that's a win for you guys. And you said we had him top 100, and I don't want to read into either of what you guys were kind of emoting there, but it seemed like you were almost defending yourselves. But I think that's something you should celebrate because if you had him top 100, he's debuted already and he's doing exactly what you predicted. I think that the only thing that could make that take look bad is if you mistook on someone who you didn't even have ranked. And that's going to happen to everybody with every list. Transitioning through that, though, I did have a specific demographic that I wanted to ask you guys about from a real world perspective. Matt, we'll start with you. How do you handle, and for lack of a better phrase, I'll call them Juicy's guys. How do you handle Juicy's guys, your DSL guys that you likely have seen little footage on, you have very little context for other than he signed for X dollars, he looks super good against other 17-year-olds, and boy, if it all clicks like it is in this, backfield, man, what could he be? What are your tenets for ranking these DSL Wunderkinds and these juicy guys, as we'll call them?
They're the hardest ones to rank, but you have to rank them because they're the guys that people are going to ask you about. They're the guys people know less about, including us, right? People that guys are a little bit more unsure of that are looking in fantasy leagues to pick up. And you can't just ignore that market because, ignoring the international market in the fantasy league is a bad idea because you're losing out on a lot of superstars, right? You just have to figure out which ones. And I make sure that I have the big bonus guys ranked accordingly because the teams know more than I like to think that the teams know more than all of us. Like I think we're okay admitting that. If they give him a lot of money, you should be able to watch it and figure out why this player got that much money. What's appealing about this guy? And is it a weak overall class? Like there's nobody that was super impressive in this last international class. I do like, what is it, Joshua Gonzalez or is it what's his name?
Joshua Gonzalez, yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen his name in a bunch of different ways. De Jesus, I think I saw. I don't know.
The maternal and paternal naming with I think he's just going by Joshua Gonzalez now.
We can just call him Joshua. That works for me.
Yeah, there you go.
I saw him and watched a lot of tape on him, but again, you have to be conscious and be aware. Like that tape is out there because someone let it be out there. Someone released that. You're not going to find swing and miss on tape of any of these guys. So if you go look for it, the games have started now, so maybe you will now. But I'm talking like games started just this week, right?
Yeah,
so,
we're at 2 or 3 games in.
I don't even know if he's playing or not because he might not be.
He's played, and they do a weird. I don't.
We have a taxi squad. Like half the team plays this day, half the team plays the other day. Because the roster's crazy for those leagues.
They run like a JV game all these teams, and they have 2 squad. A lot of them have 2 squads, and you're trying to figure out which one's the A squad and which one's the B squad, and then they
intermix them all.
And then they intermix them all, and then they have days where they just, pull up all the JV guys who are like, we're probably going to cut you this year. You're playing on I think it's Wednesdays, I think is the day I'm going to go. I'm just going to say Wednesday, right? That's the day that the JV games happen. But the Giants, they have a stream, but what they do, it's obviously for the players' families, but I've somehow, through listening to people and I've told people on the site, they delete the games right after they're done, so you don't get a chance to watch them and backlog them. So if you want to watch Gonzalez, you have to watch him live
As they're playing.
As they're playing, right? You can't go back and rewatch them. Although the Phillies, shout out to them, DSL Phillies, best stream in the entire thing. Plus, you also get some data as well, which is nice. You get some, you get to see that they're hitting against 72-mile-per-hour fastballs a lot of the time. So
yeah, and that's another thing. Like, you don't know there's no context for like the guys that they're playing against. You don't know any of these players. Like, you can pretend you do, but we don't. So like, you have to watch video on these guys. Like I don't watch the video for like the results. I watch the video to look at this kid's frame. I guess I'll say it as ways as possible. Like, see how I think he's going to change, like mature, right? How
mature, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think he's gonna progress. What do I think the power is coming from? You can't even look too much at the mechanical stuff either, because that's all going to change, because the kids are 16, 17 years old. Like, that's all going to change. It's just the frame, and you try to get a feel for how explosive they are and like twitchy they are, which you can maybe see if it's the right type of video. It's hard. I would say there's a lot of like, just skill and knowledge looking at those guys, but it's a lot of guesswork, and big bonus guys get ranked pretty high until they don't, and a lot of fluctuation between those guys as the season goes. Like, that's the hardest part of this by far.
Rhys, same question to you, man. When it comes to these guys, these DSL guys that, again, and my favorite word that Matt kind of used in a roundabout way is just without context, contextless, or very unclear as to what we're looking at, because it feels like you're putting a puzzle together, but you have only 75% of the pieces, maybe. How do you rank these guys against players that you have, more conventional data or more conventional film or looks at?
Honestly, I think and this is coming from someone who writes and goes to the box scores.
Can you trust the data you even get for that stuff, though? That's another thing.
That's something too. How much of it is juice? Do they play with the Vanderbilt juiced system back there? Shout out Vandy. They're always juicing. Their guys always look really good.
Shout out Vandy.
Shout out Vandy.
Still waiting for that Jack Leiter fastball.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that outlier pitcher that's never going to come. What is it? The generational arm? Someone once called him. But anyways, that's you
guys aren't talking about. Y'all aren't talking about Carson Fulmer, the best pitcher in the world, are you?
Oh, I fell for Carson.
Hey, sorry, we can't be Tennessee fans, Drew. So.
Hey, you can both be Tennessee fans. I'll indoctrinate you right now.
But that means I'd have to leave my Illinois State Redbirds in the dust, and I won't do that.
That's fair. I respect your steadfast beliefs there.
Team John Rave.
Yeah, exactly. John Rave, your patron saint. The patron saint of Iowa State.
And Owen
honestly,
Miller.
John Rave should have gotten the chance to play more quicker than he did.
I like John Rave. Shout out to David Sheet last year. Every day writing them up.
Rhys, you and I talk a lot because I feel like I can't record anything without you being with me. You and I talk a lot about how you and Nate, as a general consensus, seem to piss off Royals fans at an alarming rate. Matt, because you are a man steadfast in your beliefs and you happen to cheer for a Missouri-based team that is not the Royals, do you want to irritate Royals fans? I'm going to give you 1 minute to just irritate Royals fans with your hottest take. Go.
I don't need a minute to do that. It's a rinky-dink organization.
Wow.
Do you want to know my take? Salvador Perez isn't a Hall of Famer. I will stand on
No, I don't think he is either.
No, they do. They do. And I've been called disrespectful and disgraceful on Twitter just for saying that he's not.
They're in a much better shape than they are now. Than they used to be. Like, let me throw that out there. But
yes.
I don't know. I like.
You've got another 15 seconds.
I think they're fine. I mean, I don't know how you haven't found a credible outfield in like a decade, but I don't know. John Rave's here to save the day, though. But.
John Rave here to save the day, and that makes a minute. One more quick question about you guys' list-making process. The top 100 list is one of the Pro Scout side's kind of fundamental offerings with Prospects Live. Rhys, when do we expect – go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Rhys, when are we expecting the next update on the top 100?
We should probably do it soon, is what I was about to say.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should start doing that. We're gonna get done with the top 20s here soon. I didn't
Great.
realize how little we had left to do. With really the Dodgers mostly written. Luckily, I've got some great guys there that are mobilizing on that. Matt and I have already started the process of re-ranking. I mean, we ranked the Yankees. George Lombard Jr. number one prospect seemed pretty easy to both of us. The number two prospect was pretty easy. The top 100 honestly we should start doing that. I want to kind of have like two or three more for the rest of the season.
Sure. Okay, one last question about your rankings, and then Rhys, I'm going to turn it over to you. You said you wanted to kind of run point to talk about Matt and I and our other list-making endeavors. Matt, give me one name that if you have your druthers, one name that's going to shoot up the top 100 real-life list. Let's assume that pesky Rhys is not here. He can't hear you. This is your list. You got this under your thumb. Rhys's thumbs ain't nowhere to be around here. Who's the guy that's shooting up the list?
I'm trying to think here. It caught me off guard with this question. It's a good question. Don't get me wrong.
Thank you.
Let me see who are some big risers. I mean, Luis Pena is going to be a big riser. I know Rhys doesn't like him, but you still have to respect it. He's a top 100 prospect.
Oh, he's a
I
top
put
50
words in your
prospect.
mouth. I put words in your mouth there, but I like Mike Sirota. I think he's a top 100 guy.
Oh my guy.
Gage Jump. He's got to be in that conversation, right?
Very good.
Arjun Namala. Sorry.
Oh no! I mean, you're giving away the gold before the list comes out. You're just sprinkling it along the way. Rhys,
I'm glad we don't have to rank Jackson Job anymore. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah, that kind of devolved pretty quickly.
If I can get Harry Ford to graduate, I'll be a happy man, but I'll wait.
Well, Matt, I didn't think we were going to get into Harry Ford hate, but alas, we still have time for the fantasy list. Rhys may pull that one out for us to talk about. Rhys, give me a name or two that if you had your druthers, if that pesky Matt Thompson was nowhere to be around, who are some guys that are going to shoot up the real life list?
That's such a good question. I haven't really put a lot of time and effort. Mike Sorotas probably would have been one of my guys. This is great radio. It's definitely not Slade Caldwell who's striking out 30% of the time. Oh, maybe he might make the back end of it. The back end of the top 100 is not going to be great. He's striking out 30% of the time. I don't know if I believe it.
Hey, there's like 35 good prospects, and he's like 35. So
that's a good point. Do you know who I like? I think I like him. I like him more than most, and I know I've been trying to be more of an upside guy lately. I like Carson Bench a lot. They've gotten him. I don't know if he was a top 100 guy for us last time, but he's someone that I really much enjoy.
He should be now.
Rhys, you and I talked about we talked about Bench the other day for Path to the Show, and I think that maybe we were both sold on Bench in the same way because he is
what does
just
he do
solid.
Poorly?
I think
he does nothing poorly. He's almost an outfield.
Like Brandon Nimmo.
My favorite comp for him is Alex Gordon, so I think we're sort of in similar-ish boats. I think I'm a little lower than you, but
I like the Gordon comp because it's more physical like that.
That's what I was. Yeah, the physical.
Bench is small. Bench is a smaller guy, but he plays bigger. Does that make sense? Sounds stupid, but
no, I like that. So it's kind of just to tail off into another conversation super quickly, and you guys can just say yes, Drew, that makes sort of sense, or no, Drew, shut up. I think what we like about Carson Bench is the same thing we like about George Lombard. They do very little wrong.
Yeah, we talked about Lombard a little bit before we got on here, but like sooner or later, though, we need to see, for the fantasy side, we need to see some of the power and speed things that you need, right?
Yep, absolutely.
He's a little bit defense and instincts and feel and hit tool heavy, which is really good baseball player, don't get me wrong, but not the most appealing fantasy asset right now.
Yeah. Yep. Well said. All right, Rhys, we're going to kick it over to you because like we alluded to just a moment ago, Matt doesn't just make a real life list. Matt also helps with the fantasy list. So how exactly does he keep that straight in his head? What does he look for in a fantasy list versus a real life list? But I don't want to give all the good questions away because, Rhys, you're a perfectly cromulent host, my buddy. I'm going to pass it to you. Ask questions to Matt about the fantasy scape.
Okay, so Matt, what is the big difference between a fantasy list and a real life list? Because obviously your lists, or I'll ask you the first question: do they vary when you submit me the top 100? Is that the same top 100 that's on the top 7,000 fantasy prospect list?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No. The big obvious example is like plus defense doesn't really matter as much on the fantasy list as it does the real list. Defense does matter on the fantasy list though, but I just think you don't have to be plus necessarily. Like there's outlier players like Victor Scott's an outlier. Like those up the middle players are mostly outliers when I'm saying this, but like you have to have a certain level of defense to be an everyday player. Unless like it's just so the fantasy, I think on the real side of it, we completely folded in like 100%, but in the fantasy list it doesn't. In a real life list, I feel like there's more at stake. This is my dumb brain thinking. They're both lists, right? But like I feel like there's more at stake in the real life list. You almost play it safer, take more shots in the fantasy list. I always if I had to pick a list that I want to be like more accurate, I would always take the real life list because that's what I feel like that's encompassing everything, right? Fantasy is you can kind of not really worried about. You focus more on ceiling, but I think in the real life list you focus more on realistic outcomes, which they bleed together a little bit. Like it's more of a case by case basis per player than it is an overarching like theme. But sometimes it's hard to keep them straight a little bit, especially right now because I'm ranking both at the same time in my head. So it's been fun to keep it straight, but I mean it's a good time anyways. But like it's a difficult process because like you have to keep your finger on the pulse of like 1,000 players essentially, and it's pretty hard to do because we do a pretty in-depth job on our top 20s and our top 100s. But imagine top 40s for every team. That's the fantasy list, right? Pretty much.
That's a good way to put it. I'll ask you, Drew. Do you rank out by teams? Like, do you do that by chance, or are you just a straight? I'm ranking these guys based on like when you sit down to write your list. Are you like going down? Okay, I want to have this guy be the top Phillies prospect. I want to have this guy be the top this guy prospect. Or are you just going, whatever your process is? I kind of want to know as far as it goes with teams.
It varies. I really like if just for instance, we're recording this on Thursday evening, June the 5th. We're supposed to have our fantasy list turned in on Sunday. Because I don't have, I don't think it's going to happen for me either. I love the head shake no because I relate to that in a very deeply personal.
Sorry, Greg. It'll be like a day or two after that, but it won't be.
I'm thinking maybe like next Tuesday. But anyway, Rhys, if I had a lot of time, I would love to look at it team by team. Matt goes a step further. I think Matt, if I'm not mistaken, with your fantasy list, you go position by position, right?
So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it sometimes, but a lot of times I'll do a team first, right? And then I'll do a team expands out to a division, and then I rank the entire AL East. Say I put 30 prospects per team. I'm making up a number, but like so I'll rank all 150 prospects that I ranked just by division, and then I'll do the next division, and then I integrate the AL East into the AL Central, and then do the AL West, all 5 teams out, and integrate all that. And then I have all my American League done, and then I go to the NL and do the same thing. I've noticed that if I do it by team, I'm less likely to miss people than I am if I do it by position, because I do this off the top of my head. I really don't use I'll use P Live Plus to build my database out. But even that doesn't catch everybody because you miss players that aren't playing, right?
That are hurt, yeah.
Right. And you miss guys that have moved up and down levels because they get buried with different search functions and all that. So there's kind of limitations, but so I use that and kind of populate the list like that. I try not to use a previous list, but then I'll build up a new list and then I'll go back and look at the old one and I'll see, okay, how do I justify making up a player and a number, but how do I justify moving Bryce Eldridge 12 spots from last time? What did he do different? Does he deserve to be ranked 12 spots higher or lower based off what I had him before? Or some guys are 100 spots.
Yeah.
How do you justify moving a guy 100 spots? Does he deserve it? Did he suck? Was he good? I wish there was a more scientific way to do it, but there really isn't.
I think that all the time. And just to kind of jump in on what Matt was saying, not that you asked me, Rhys, but just to jump in on what Matt was saying. Um, I like to use my last list as a point of reference, but I always, and I just did it tonight, Rhys. I download fresh data for the year for every player. And normally I'll take like an hour or two with each. Normally it's by like your highest rank or your highest level. So if a guy's highest level is double A, that's who I'm comparing you to, is the other people whose highest level is double A. I like to take age related function. And the thing that I've decided actually most recently, Matt, because like you said, you want to be able to justify, okay, like for instance, Hayden Alvarez. I hear so much about him from you, from Juicy, from everybody. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to have this guy ranked highly. So when I look at his numbers, though, I want to be able to quantify he's doing this well. And then if I can look at last month, what I thought about a player, and I thought, okay, he's young for the level, he's playing moderately well, and I like him. Those are three good things. But if now he's young for the level, his numbers are just okay because he's slumped, and I'm kind of more mediocre on him, I think Alvarez could theoretically slot above this guy. So mine uses a lot of kind of the Drew intuition, which is, nobody can predict this, and I don't recommend you trying. Drew intuition with month-to-month comparison. And another thing that we didn't throw out, just in terms of the list construction, and this is very much sausage how it's made, Rhys, but and you I think you're privy to this, but Matt throws out names constantly in our Dynasty team chat. He'll be like, dudes, we need to look at insert Matt name here. And then Smada normally, once we all have our first drafts in, will present enormous lists that will say inevitably, Drew, you are too low on Jet Williams, raise him higher. Drew, you're too low on this guy.
Like, Drew, are you comfortable being the low guy on this guy? And then it's up to
exactly,
you to move on.
exactly. That's a much better way of saying it, Matt. Yes, it's saying like, hey, you are an outlier in the positive on these guys. You're an outlier in the negative on these guys. Here are guys that 3 or 4 guys ranked very highly that others may not have ranked. Maybe check them out. Here are guys that one dude ranked extremely highly. Everybody look and then see if this is a guy you want to include. And these things, I don't know how other sites do it, obviously, but I think that this gives us a very complete list, a very fully fleshed out list, while allowing Matt's opinion to shine, because if Matt likes a guy a lot and the rest of us are okay on him, I think that that's going to aggregate into our final product. We have a smart team of guys that are plugged in a lot of different ways. And I think what you said a minute ago, Rhys, is that it was a 7,000 player list, and it definitely feels like it. It can be very overwhelming, but it's also extremely satisfying to finish a list. And Matt, I hope you feel this way too, because when I finally get my list and I don't hate it, I know I'm close. But then when I can look at it and be like, this is a good submission, I feel good putting this into the ether and as part of the team. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it is fun. There's 7 people that contribute to the list, so it's easy to lose your voice if you're not like active about a player. Because if I like a player and I can convince Drew to like him too, then I still got 5 more people that might not rank him high. So like, I do think sometimes we should release the cumulative list and then maybe the following week, like each day, release somebody's list individually to let everybody's list like shine by itself, because it's a lot of work put into this. But that's more work. So I'm,
if that's something you guys are into, I mean, drop a comment or send one of us a tweet, either me, Rhys, Nate, Matt. Send somebody a tweet or a message or comment on this on the site, and let us know if that's something you're into. Because sure, why not? Matt, like you said, it's a lot of work. Why not let it shine? Rhys, I'm sorry. Go ahead with your questioning.
No, you guys have answered everything that I was going to ask. I was going to ask, how do you guys handle, the consensus? Because I don't partake in the list, because I feel like I tell you guys, I stress out over a top 100, a top 600 list being submitted. I feel like that would take years off my life. When I rank the top 100, like I'm stressing over, like, who do I want to be the last top 50 prospect? Who do I want to be the last top 75 prospect? Like it's like a labor of love. And I can only imagine you guys do it monthly. My goodness, I can't even imagine. Maybe we should be re-ranking the top 100 a little bit more. That's something I will concede. But I mean, our top 100 looks pretty good right now. all things considered, outside of Roki Sasaki being one. We didn't expect him to be this bad. But that's a different discussion entirely. I think as far as the last thing I wanted to ask was, okay, so you have these two players, Sal Stewart and Aiden Miller. How would you go about comparing them for a list? I know not the most exciting players by any means. Although don't say that to some people. Some people are really big Sal Stewart fans, and they get really mad when you're
His
not.
name,
And I'm like,
his name rhymes with Blada, I think, right?
right. Yeah. So, Spot a big Sal Stewart guy?
I think Spot is a very big Sal Stewart guy, if I'm not mistaken, isn't he?
No
I
idea.
did not know that.
I'm pretty sure he is. Don't quote me on that. No, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, Spot. I'm pretty sure he is, though.
That's okay. This is Drew and I's last day. But Aiden Miller and Sal Stewart, I view them kind of similarly-ish. What is the differentiator between those two for you guys? I know they're both pretty divisive-ish prospects.
Go ahead, Matt.
So I think Aiden Miller is got the floor over Sal Stewart, which is crazy looking at the numbers, but I would bet on Aiden Miller more than I would Stewart being a long-term big leaguer. The thing with Sal Stewart, we've kind of mentioned, I don't know if we've done it while we were recording, but and I was just made aware, I think someone else on different shows were talking about this same topic, but I think with Sal Stewart, I don't know what he does well enough to be a long-term starter at second base. And if he can't play second base, then where does he go? Right? It's got to be left field. At least Aiden Miller's playing shortstop now. You can maybe dream on him moving second or third if you had to do something like that. So I think that definitely matters a lot, right? But Sal Stewart doesn't – I don't know if I trust the hit tool. It plays well, but we know the power plays down in games, right? We know that he's not the greatest defender at second base. I think he's more of a savvy base runner than he is a speedy, actual 30 stolen base guy. I don't think he's ever that guy. I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. He's a guy that I agonize over ranking because I don't want to – maybe I should do this more often, just if I don't believe in a player, just completely dump him. But I can kind of see a scenario where he is good, and so it's hard for me to completely rank him outside of my top 100, but maybe I should. But there's pop-up guys that are better. Aaron I'll take Aaron Escobar over Sal Stewart. Is that
me too.
Not much of a debate,
especially at the same position. And I think one of the things I'm sorry to jump in front of you here, Drew, but I think with Sal Stewart, you're talking about, what is the upside? Is he ever a top 10 second baseman? Probably not. If he doesn't hit 25 home runs or if he doesn't steal 25 bases, it's a Chris Blessing-ism. Yeah, he was mentioned that on the podcast, and that kind of really stuck with me. Especially
it sounds like
where I'm at. It's a really good you have to do one of those two. And does he ever do that? I don't think so. So sorry, I don't want to let you talk about him, Drew.
No, I agree with everything Matt was saying. It's two players who I think that I say we, not me and Matt specifically, but just the fantasy industry almost. You wanted Aiden Miller to be something different than what it looks like he is. I think that when he was drafted, the potential you thought, or it looks like he might be something different than he is. I think he might still be credible as a major leaguer. I think he's almost certainly at this point in his career a likely major leaguer. But how much of an impact is he going to make for fantasy is a whole different question. And like Matt was kind of alluding to, I think that it's probably much more close than Phillies fans or, Aiden Miller stands would want to admit, the closeness between he and Arun Escobar. That's actually a really, really strange question that I'm not sure how I would handle that. I guess I'll have to find out this weekend. But with Sal Stewart, you guys said it. Matt, I often say whenever I talk to Matt, it's like sitting under a learning tree, Rhys, because I hear things and it's like it infests my brain. And now, thinking about Sal Stewart, what really is his carrying tool? What is the plus thing that Sal Stewart is going to offer me? The fact that I can't answer that means he is likely ranked too high in my last list. And so I think down is probably a safe estimate for where both of these guys are going to be in my upcoming list.
Yeah, Sal Stewart's 80% contact, roughly 81% contact rate, 50% swing rate. It's nothing pops, man. The on base percentage is there, right? But
thank you.
I just don't.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right.
I don't know. Like, there's no glue. There's nothing that's going to keep him at second base to let him work through stuff. Like like he's not a standout defender.
There's always somebody better at things than him.
Yeah,
Probably.
He's like is like best. Are we looking at like a Jonathan India type guy? Like, is that the hope here?
Yeah, and I mean Jonathan India is a fine major leaguer, but I think that if we could go back and re-rank Jonathan India, knowing what we know now, I think he'd be a lot lower than he was.
Is that Sal Stewart? I mean, that's like kind of what you're hoping for, right? Like,
I get that. I get that. Rhys, any other major questions about the fantasy lists or how we do that, or any specific prospects you want to know about before we wind down? Matt has had a long day, I can only assume, and we don't want to interrupt his nap time.
pretty much.
As you can see, I'm fighting to find my charger because my laptop's at 3%. So I don't have any other questions. I think you guys have answered them all. It's really nice to pick your guys' brains on list making. I would honestly listen to a podcast on all the fantasy or just real life prospect list guys just talking about their process, because I feel like that would just make I think that'd be really enlightening for just me personally, but also I think other people who don't understand the list making process.
I don't know.
People are like, well, why was this guy here? And I'm like, well, this is what we decided,
I'm super curious about some of the guys out here because I don't even like some. I bet you there's some people and I guess this isn't a knock, but I bet you there's some people that don't really have one.
Yeah, they just kind of just go off vibes, and honestly, it might be
less stressful that way.
Yeah, like they're not spending an entire weekend wandering around a table like I am. Like when our top 100 comes out. But no, I think that's great. I know Matt's got to get going. I don't want to interrupt more Matt time. That makes it sound dirty. Like I don't want it to sound like
we don't want it to be a weird thing, but I mean we don't want to take your time that you can watch your games and play MLB The Show and chill and do your stuff.
Oh no, it's all good. Well, my day rotation this week at work, so I'll be 4 a.m. comes fast.
That it does, my friend. Matt, we appreciate you being on the show with us. I did want to ask, for all the people who at home want to keep up with you between your podcast appearances, between your writing, and between your many, many list-making endeavors, where can they do so on the internet?
MD_Tomp_P Live. That's where you can find the ramblings.
Yep, Matt's one of my favorite Twitter follows. Anytime I see a Matt tweet, it is likely to be very entertaining. So recommend you follow him. And thanks again for joining us, Matt. We hope to have you back soon. Hopefully you'll be able to meet Nate next time. We swear he's real.
Maybe. And props to Tyrese Halliburton.
Most important thing. Props to Tyrese Halliburton, for sure. We'll be right back after this quick tune from the Drop Teens.
Thank you, everyone, for staying tuned after that break with the music by the Drop Teens. Fantastic stuff. I don't know which song Nate has decided to go with, but as you can see, we are sans Nate right now. I'm going to talk about what's going on at Prospects Live. We have a big announcement, kind of. I don't even know if we've really ran it by the higher ups yet, but we want to do a live stream again on Sunday, doing about the super regionals, kind of bounce around, have some fun. Drew, Nate, and I had a great time. We had Adam on, we had Will on. Adam's always fantastic. Like Adam comes in for like an hour and is just like he's the perfect sixth man off the bench. Do we have anybody else on? I know we want to get other people on the site. We want to give them a chance to jump on because it was so much fun. The last hour was no baseball at all. They were just making fun of Will for being tall. Got to knock him down a peg a little bit. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. We're going to promote that on socials. And if for some reason we don't decide to do it, you can yell at me or you can yell at Nate, who Matt thinks Nate and I are the same person. We listened in that interview.
Wild stuff.
He thinks that I'm just trying to get another check from the company. But anyways, we have the MiLB Daily Sheet. We're gonna have the College Daily Sheet going on this weekend. Tom released his 3 Up, 3 Down. We have the Live Looks articles from Mitch S. and Will Thompson up as well. I know the Fantasy Boys are rocking and rolling. The Dynasty podcast just went up. Ooh, the fantasy crew is also going to be releasing a top 600 for 500, I think. I should know more. Max Ellingson has been rolling through the MLB draft previews, and I think that's really all that's going on, honestly, at Prospects Live. Not that there's not a lot in it. Like I said, if you get to this point and you love the content and you're not a member, $5 a month gets you basically open into it, and it's, I think, the best sort of content. You're going to get emails all day. There's nothing better. The Dynasty pickup guys too. They've been killing it as well. Drew, what's on your mind?
Funny you ask, because before we recorded this, wow, Chug.
Yeah, that one drop.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I looked up and you're going like full 90-degree angle.
So I've stopped drinking. Like, I don't drink like that much, hardly at all. Maybe at like celebration. So, but I like a good seltzer water, and I like fruit juice in it. And today's was plain seltzer water and orange, and it was very good. The orange was carrying a lot of the flavor because the seltzer water has no flavor, and I wanted the last drop, and apparently this glass won't let me.
I'm sorry. I hate when a glass won't cooperate.
Yeah. So
what do we pay? What do we pay you for, glass?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Drew, what's on your mind?
Well, I don't know. Before we jumped on here to actually record, we asked one another, hey, you got a good topic? I didn't, but I came up with something I was going to tell you about. I've got something going on this weekend. Not just super regionals, I should say, because that's obviously, people are going to be like, hey, talking about Tennessee. No, I have something else going on. My life has another aspect to it. My brother, Kyle, who is my best friend, we've been best friends my whole life. He's 2 years younger than me, and he does something really cool for his job. So he is essentially like the lead barista for a coffee shop here in town, and is friends with the owners, has known them like for his whole life practically, and they were trying to come up with just cool things they could do to like foster community engagement, right? And one of the things they've come up with is that Kyle is going to host trivia nights. So Kyle writes trivia night, like I think it's 20 questions plus a bonus question, all of different themes and different kind of like niches and genres of trivia. And I believe this is going to be the 8th or 9th trivia night on Friday, June 6th. So tonight, I suppose, will be trivia night. And I'm excited to play. The topic for this one is riddles and brain teasers.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it because it's bizarre. We've done in the past, we've done Disney trivia, we've done television trivia, 80s and 90s, rock music, Christmas movie trivia. Like there's been more specific ones. So this is definitely the most left field of all of them. But anyhow, I don't want to talk about brain teaser trivia. I kind of just want to talk about my brother, if that's okay. I tell him all the time, Rhys, Kyle might be the smartest person with baseball that has no actual baseball knowledge. That's really not a nice way to say it. Kyle has very unrefined baseball tendencies or idealisms, but they turn out to be true more often than not. And I almost liken it to like someone who's never painted, picking up the brush and then suddenly becoming Picasso. I tell him all the time, I really think you should write. I think you should try to create baseball content because I've joked on podcasts before that he was my original favorite fantasy baseball analyst is my brother. And I tell him all the time that he should jump on and just write something, maybe not for Prospects Live or whatever, but just somewhere, just write something, get your thoughts out there because I think he could do it. He always insists that he cannot write. As far as I know, he is not illiterate. I've never once seen him reading outside of a school setting, and he claims to not be able to write. Is Kyle illiterate? I don't know, but I think that he'd make an amazing analyst if only he'd put forth the effort. So what's on my mind? I was thinking about trivia, and I'm thinking about my brother, and I'm just thankful for him. And yeah, I guess if you have a passion for something, follow it through. because Kyle is really having fun with this trivia thing, and it reminds me of how much fun that I have getting to do fantasy baseball content and to do Path to the Show with you, buddy, and to do On Deck with you and Nate. I'm very blessed and very thankful. So that's what's on my mind.
Your brother is the lead barista. Okay. Is he good at making like the latte art and everything like that? That's something I would like to know. Like I would like to know how to do.
I think that Kyle would say he's okay at making latte art. Now, I will say earlier in his life, he was not a lead barista, but a barista for a cafe in Memphis that was much more adept and did specialty like art. And he had to know several. He tells me that he does the art, but not as frequently now. I think now he's more like, hey, we need to get these 20 orders out. Like, if it's pretty, that's wonderful. Like, but we need to make it at this level. If it's below that, no. If it's above that, only if we have time. But, that kind of comes and goes. I think he can, but I would say he'd give himself a moderate score. If I'm lying, Kyle, I'm sorry. But I'd say he'd give himself maybe a 6 out of 10.
And how well do you do at these trivia events? And is he ever going to do baseball? Because then you would win.
Let me ask you this, Rhys. If you had to put money on me without knowing, how would you say I did at trivia events?
You're very smart. You are very well-rounded. You're very... Shout out the Ring doorbell. I would say you do really well. I'd say you're like a really, really good trivia. Like you carry a trivia team.
The teams that I play on are feared. We've won 2 or 3 of the 8 or 9 and have lost a couple of others on the tiebreaker question, which Kyle does in kind of like Jeopardy format. So you can wager points, and other teams have like wagered it all and gotten the correct answer to jump ahead of us by like 10 points. Then there have also been 3 or 4 that I've helped Kyle. Like I've helped him to develop the trivia and like collect answers and tally scores or whatever. But I really enjoy it. I like playing. I like being tested in that way, and I have a lot of useless knowledge as well. So it's fun.
Dude, I've got a lot of useless knowledge up here. I know every minor league team name. Whenever I've gone to trivia, it's always been like, what is the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres? I was like, oh, this is the perfect question. No one's going to know. I know this like the back of my hand. Also, like, like random like sports, other sports and stuff. Nothing else though. No movies. Like we'll talk about my disdain for movies later in a different episode.
I'm curious, man. What's on your mind? Should we talk about what's on your mind?
TV in general is kind of what I'm going to put. Very general. I like to come in here and keep it vague. We were talking beforehand. I've never seen Seinfeld. I've never really watched it. I've never watched Friends either. Never been 2 things that have been all high on my viewing list. But I do. In that same time frame, I do love Frasier. Frasier is one of my absolute favorite TV shows. I think Frasier is one of the most smartly written TV shows of its kind. Until I don't want to spoil it. I like Arrested Development. I like The Office. I like Parks and Rec. I like Parks and Rec more than The Office. I think Parks and Rec is one of the best shows that we've done in a long time. But I don't know if there's any shows like that going on right now. You're more plugged into the TV world than I am. I don't even know I don't have cable, so I don't know what the sitcoms are that are coming out. I'm a classic millennial / Gen Zer. I don't have cable, and I just don't know what's on TV. I see all the clips and everything. Like I've watched more Young Sheldon on TikTok than I've ever watched an entire episode. I've never watched The Big Bang Theory, so I was just going to ask, like, do you have any TV recommendations for me?
So I also don't have cable. I don't have cable or satellite. We joke that I'm old man Drew, but I am a millennial. I'm a millennial. I'm an elder millennial, but a millennial. So I very much fall in line with you on that regard, that no cable, no satellite, none of that crap. Just streaming services. And I would define myself as being very out of the loop on television as well, actually. I'm trying to think if even I have any good recommendations, because I feel like my wife and I watch the same shows. I love Seinfeld. I love The Office is fabulous, as you said.
The Simpsons.
The Simpsons is an immaculate show. We could even go some.
When do you think The Simpsons falls off? When do you think it's not bad, but like when I think the first 12 seasons are great. I think after season 12, you can start to notice that it's starting to just, it's a very diminishing returns. Very small.
I'm going to push back on that very slightly because I don't think The Simpsons, I think if you pulled up maybe seasons, and I'm going to
35, right? Like that's what they're on.
Are we at 35? I'm trying to. Okay, yeah. So we're past season 33. They're in season 36 currently, which is just absolutely insanity. I'm just going to click season 16, and I'm going to see if there's an episode that I recognize that I think is good, and I'm not seeing one. I'm going to go down to 14. There are a couple here that I feel like I vaguely remember. I think 13, 12, kind of in that range probably, but I do definitely think that like seasons 5 and 7, 4 of The Simpsons are probably some of the most perfect, cromulent seasons of television ever made. Season 7, Rhys, of The Simpsons includes the second part of Who Shot Mr. Burns, the Radioactive Man episode, Up and at Them, like that's amazing. Where Bart sells his soul to Milhouse.
That was great.
Where Homer gains all of his weight. The episode where Homer's mother returns and then leaves him again. The bowling episode. The episode where Lisa uncovers the truth about Jedediah Springfield, where the words cromulent and embiggen come from.
That's the season where George H.W. Bush moves in next door to The Simpsons as well, right?
George H.W. Bush moves in. And also, Knoxville, Tennessee is featured in the episode Bart on the Road because they go to visit the Sun Sphere, which is now, of course, the Wig Sphere, as it would be. So anytime I see I've seen the Sun Sphere in person, and I refer to it as nothing other than the Wig Sphere. Raging Abe Simpson and his Grambling grandson in The Curse of the Flying Hellfish is a fabulous episode. Homer Palooza, Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins, Homer Simpson smiling politely. Like, I don't think there's ever been a line of television written that's funnier than that. That is pierced into my brain as peak humor. So yes, with you completely.
Season when Homer becomes Smithers for a day or for a little bit, that was great too.
Yes.
Oh, when they did the bowling, you're right. Season 7 is honestly the best season.
It is perfection. And I mean, seasons 5, 6, I love season 4. I remember being probably 12 or 13 years old, and my brother Kyle, shout you out again, he returned home with my mother one day and said, oh, I found this, and I know how much we like watching The Simpsons, but it was just the season 4 DVD. I still have it, just through this door. It's through this door. I still have it, and I could watch that right now and maybe quote every episode.
I can quote every line. Oh, season 6 is Bart versus Australia. That's one of my absolute favorites. I can quote every line from the Simpsons movie. That's one of my few hidden talents. That is probably the last bit of great Simpsons content.
The first time that I saw that Marge taped over the wedding video to record the message for Homer, I cried.
Yeah.
I cry a lot at movies. I try to be really open with my feelings.
Can I tell you something? I'm a big crier as well. I cried during the Barbie movie multiple times. That's the last movie I think I saw in person that I cried.
Dude, I watched the Barbie movie once and loved it, and I'm trying to think of when you might have cried, because I cried, I know, at least once or twice, and I'm trying to remember when specifically.
It's great towards the end. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. It's a fantastic movie. They don't need to make a second one or anything like that. Just keep it at the one perfect movie.
No, one. Keep it at one. Don't complicate it. Just do the one. But no, The Simpsons is absolutely fabulous. There is actually a show.
What is your favorite Simpsons bit? Mine is when Bart reports Milhouse to the authorities, and not again at the playhouse or at the playground. That's one of my favorites. And then the diving scene out of the sewer. I think that's one of my favorite Simpsons bits.
That's a very good one. Oh man, I'm trying to think of my favorite bits. Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot here.
Everything's coming up Millhouse. I quote that.
I say that all the time. I mean, obviously, Rhys, it took, I think midway through Path to the Show season 1, I started referring to just average or run of the mill things as being cromulent. And now it has infested with us to where we use it not even funnily. Like we just use it as like a normal word. And I
Right.
told myself once you started using cromulent in the same way I was like, okay, now I need to work embiggen in. And if we can do cromulent and embiggen, like, oh my God, guys, Jack Caglone has really embiggened he's embiggened his contact this year. Just as kind of a nod, because if someone hears that, they're gonna be like, embiggened, what does that mean? But like if there's a Simpsons fan that hears me say, oh, he has embiggened his contact rate this year, they're gonna be like, this idiot just used embiggened in a serious conversation. And anyway, favorite bit.
I'll give you one more so you can stall, so I can help you stall for a little bit. I also
Please.
love when they have all the baseball players come in and he's like, "Do you want to know how I do it, or do you want to see me sock some dingers?" Dingers, and everyone went crazy.
It doesn't take much for me to get excited about dinger, as you well know, or dingers. I feel like season 4, I quote quite a bit. One thing that I really like in a joke setup that I really like is from Marge versus the Monorail, where Lyle Landley is at the chalkboard and he's saying, mono means one and rail means rail. And that concludes our 3-week session. And like, I just, again, just something about that is perfection. I also from the episode Last Exit to Springfield, where Lisa's playing the protest song, so a March day and night by the big cooling tower, they have the plan, but we have the power. She hits that kind of C chord there at the end, and then Lenny speaks up and goes, now do classical gas. And here goes Lisa, just starts playing Eric Clapton like just a virtuoso. And I think that's hilarious. So anytime someone finishes playing guitar, I always request, now do classical gas. I don't know. Like, I feel like my wife jokes a lot that anytime I say something she doesn't know, it's me quoting The Simpsons. And 98% of the time it's correct.
I think one of my other ones is I love anything Bart and Millhouse. I think that their dynamic might be my favorite. It's when
Yes.
Bart buys the factory for Millhouse to work in.
Yes. Oh, I've got one. Okay. Another one, and it's obviously so good, is whenever Kirk Van Houten and Luann Van Houten, Millhouse's parents, are arguing in front of everyone at the party. And Luann is just like, yeah, you've taken the most successful cracker factory in Springfield and put it into a tie with third with Allied Biscuit. And like, she just shouts, and then you kind of cut to Marge, and Marge is just like sweeping crackers off a plate into a box that's marked Allied Biscuit. How do you draw dignity? Can I borrow a feeling? Like, really, that episode is just chock full of good stuff too. I really don't.
I sleep in my bed with my wife.
I speak in a grown-up bed with my wife. That's such a good show. Okay, let's do game time really quickly, but then we need to wrap up because
Yes.
I know that we need to get.
You've got to go to bed.
I have to go to bed. It's currently 12:21 a.m. for me. Rhys, I'm going to set the bar at 30%. What are the odds that Nate knows any of the references we just made to The Simpsons?
This is going to be so funny because Nate could literally just put himself in because he's the one who edits these podcasts. He could be like 0. I'm going to go under.
Okay. Nate, tell us what did you know any of these references?
Hi guys, this is Nate while editing at 1 a.m. and using text-to-speech so I don't wake my mom up. I knew almost all of those references. Don't underestimate my Simpsons love. The Simpsons movie is rated very highly on my Letterboxd. Also, Bean Dip is awesome, and I am my own person, not just Rhys cloned.
Wow, I can't believe you knew that many. That's crazy. I told you he wouldn't know any Rhys. LOL. Wow, exactly 30%. Crazy how that works. Anyway, if you'd enjoyed this episode of the On Deck podcast presented by Prospects Live, we ask that you would please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell so that you know whenever we've posted. And Rhys, I'm screwing this up. You do this part. We said we needed to do this.
Smash that like button. Hit that bell notification. If you don't I'll come find you. And Nate, you can find Nate on the streets. You can find Nate on the streets of Seattle. You can find him.
You guys need to look up Nate's account on Letterboxd. You can find him on Letterboxd.
Yeah, you can find him on Letterboxd. Fight with him on that. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at rhysbwhite, Bluesky, Rhys White. Some people can follow me on Instagram, which is weird. Cool, fine, do it. And yeah, this has been another episode of Path of the Show. Dang it.
Wow.
I'm so bad at this. On Deck.
On Deck is fun too.
I don't have a script in front of me.
That's okay. If you want to follow me in between our episodes, you may do so on the Twitter machine at drewisokay. You may do so on Bluesky the same. My Instagram sucks, but if you want to, you could find it maybe if you're good at that kind of thing. I'm not going to give it to you, but you could find it possibly. Isn't that awful? I'm not gatekeeping. It's just really bad. I don't post there. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. We really miss Nate. Hope that he's doing well. And we'll talk to you next
as well.
Yeah, I miss Nate so much. Oh, Nate. Rhys puts on the Nate mask. Anyway, no. We will see you next time. Take care and bye-bye.
Here she comes, walking in walls, talking in tongues. Got the boys in line. Yes, I'm drunk, but the pill in my pocket's gonna sober me up.